means, you know, it's Father has it, but it is. It reminds me of, I think it's Revelation 21, maybe 22. It says, let the wicked be more wicked.
So we're going to read and study Habakkuk today.
Okay. And actually thinking about this last time I went away, I did a lot of reading for the Tanakh as well. Now, where do I find it? Here we go, under the 12 prophets, page 1390. And I love my Tanakh because it's the only book I've got that's it's actually it's backwards, physically backwards.
I think we're backwards.
And it's or we're backwards. Yeah.
It's right.
It's backwards to what I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so Habakkuk. Okay. And I've got, since I'm on my phone, I can do this. I can show you my camera. Turn it round, and I can show you what I see. Forget the balloons and the drink bottles, get them out the way. But I can show you what I can see.
Is there an intro to the book, like before chapter?
Well, no.
Okay.
No. It may be because it says that the title is the later prophets. Whether there's an intro before all of the later prophets.
Yeah, I know
that section.
Exodus, but that's a big old chunk of book, so.
Yeah. Hang on. This is a big section. Later prophets, early prophets. So we've got the early prophets and then we've got the later prophets. So let's have a look and see if we can find. Here we go.
There we go. Right.
Isaiah. That says Isaiah. Right.
Okay.
I don't want to. Where's my? Put a marker in there. I don't lose my spot. Early prophets. So it's got a bit of a chat there about the early prophets. No, that's the end of 2 Kings. No, forget it. So there's an introduction there to Isaiah, which is lovely if we're studying Isaiah, but we're not. What's the next page? Into Isaiah. Okay. It's still Isaiah. And then, yeah, look, I've got this whole chunk, like I don't know, quarter-inch until I get over to Habakkuk, but no intro. There is in the notes though. Oh, according to Cedar Olam, which is in italics, which I would imagine is a Hebrew writing, Habakkuk prophesied in the time of the very wicked King Manasseh of Judah. See Nahum 1:1. The prophet alternates between prayer on behalf of the persecuted Jews and Hebrews and prophecy of the downfall of their future Babylonian conqueror. So that's the note on 1:1. Habakkuk from the Stone Tanakh. It actually says the prophecy that Habakkuk the prophet saw. That's what that scripture reads.
Yeah, the prophecy, and then in the HalleluYah scriptures it says the message. Interesting.
Okay, can you see this? It says the prophecy is in focus, or?
Yeah, it is, but it's turned sideways for us, so that's not helping Tez's vertigo, or maybe she's the one who could read it. I'm not sure.
Hang on.
Oh, better.
There. Is that better?
Yeah, that is better.
Can you read the whole side?
Prophecy. In the Hebrew, it does say prophecy, so that's great. I mean, like, I don't know why HalleluYah scripture.
And here you go on this side. What is the word? What is the word for prophecy?
Oh,
we
no,
know that
it's just
Nabiyah. There you go, Nabiyah.
Maybe it is message. It's because it says the which the Nabi Habakkuk saw. So it does say Habakkuk, the prophet.
Oh, there's Habakkuk here. There's Habakkuk there.
Yeah.
Habakkuk a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So it might, I don't know. I'd have to look at it, but it's interesting. It says, to me, it's interesting because the first word is Hamasa.
Hamasa. Yeah, it's almost Hamashiach, isn't it?
Well, it sort of looks like, it sort of sounds like message.
Hamasa. The message. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thought. I mean, that we need to probably look at that in the Hebrew, but anyway, I will go over and look at Wikipedia just to see what they have, because I think that there's something interesting about this. Let's see what it says. Okay, it says Habakkuk was active around 612 BC. Are you guys able to see what, Bonnie? Okay, so are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right, let me make it, whoops, trying to make it bigger.
It just says Shepherd 7 has started screen sharing.
You know, does anybody see Habakkuk Wikipedia?
Well, I see it. So I think, Leah, there must be a delay on your side.
Okay, just great to know that I'm not the only one looking at it. I don't know if you gotta, maybe it'll catch up. All right, I'm just gonna read it, Leah, and you can, I mean, it's just what we're just listening for the information here. It says Habakkuk was
I got it now. I got it.
Perfect. Was active around 612 BC, was a prophet whose oracles and prayers are recorded in the book of Habakkuk, the 8th of the collected 12 minor prophets in the Hebrew Bible. So 612 BC, this is kind of what I was looking for. This is 100 years after the 10 northern tribes was kicked out, if this is correct. He is revered by Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Almost all information about Habakkuk is drawn from the book of the scriptures bearing his name, with no biographical details provided other than this, than his title, the prophet. Outside the scriptures, he is mentioned over the centuries in the forms of Christian and rabbinic tradition. The name Habakkuk appears in the Hebrew scriptures only in chapter 1, verse 1 and chapter 3, verse 1. In the Masoretic text, it is written in Hebrew, CxaBuQuWK, and this name does not occur elsewhere. The Septuagint just transcribes his name into Greek as Ambakum, and the Vulgate transcribes it into Latin as Habakkuk. Okay, that's interesting. We went from Habakkuk to Ambakum in the Greek. The etymology of the name is not clear, and its form has no parallel in Hebrew. The name is possibly related to the Akkadian Habakkuk, the name of a fragrant plant, or the Hebrew root Habak, meaning embrace. Well, I'm guessing it's probably the second one. Almost nothing is known about Habakkuk except aside from what is stated within the book of the scriptures bearing his name, or those inferences that may be drawn from that book. His name appears in the scriptures only in chapter 1, verse 1 and 3, verse 1. Okay, no biographical data. We got that already. His title is the prophet. For almost every other prophet, more information is given, such as the name of the prophet's hometown, his occupation, or information concerning his parentage or tribe. For Habakkuk, however, there is no reliable account of any of these. Although his home is not identified, scholars conclude that Habakkuk lived in Jerusalem at the time he wrote his prophecy. So that was if their being ejected from Jerusalem was in 586 BC, this was 612. So 26 years before. It is assumed he was active about that time, around 612 BC, making him an early contemporary of Jeremiah and Zephaniah. Jewish sources, however, do not group him with these two prophets, who are often placed together, so it is possible that he was slightly earlier than these two prophets. Because the final chapter of his book is a song, okay, interesting, it is sometimes assumed that he was a member of the tribe of Lewi, who served as musicians in Solomon's temple. Tradition, Habakkuk appears in Bel and the Dragon, which is part of the Deuterocanonical additions to Daniel. Verses 33 to 39 state that Habakkuk is in Judea. After making some stew, he is instructed by an angel of Yahuah to take the stew to Daniel, who is in the lion's den in Babylon. Oh, this is so interesting. I didn't know this. After proclaiming that he is unaware of both the den and Babylon, the angel transports Habakkuk to the lion's den. Habakkuk gives Daniel the food to sustain him, and he is immediately taken back to his place. This is so interesting, y'all. Habakkuk is also mentioned in the Lives of the Prophets, which also mentions his time in Babylon. Okay, according to the Zohar, Habakkuk is the boy born to the Shunammite woman through Elisha's blessing. Okay, that's interesting. And he said, about this season, according to the time of life, you shall embrace Chet Bet Quf Tet, Habakkuk, a son. And she said, nay, my master, man of Elohim, do not lie unto your handmaid. This is really interesting, y'all. I'm so glad we looked at this. You guys find that interesting?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So the word
So
is
it makes sense that his name is
embrace. Yeah.
Embrace.
That is so interesting. Oh my gosh. The only work attributed to Habakkuk is the short book of the scriptures that bears his name. The book of Habakkuk consists of 5 oracles about the Chaldeans or Babylonians and a song of praise to Elohim. The style of the book has been praised by many scholars, suggesting that its author was a man of great literary talent. Okay. The entire book follows the structure of a chiasmus, in which parallelism of thought is used to bracket sections of the text. We just talked about this in the video that Anne brought up, the curse from Mount Ebal, the amulet. Habakkuk is unusual among the prophets in that he openly questions the working of Elohim. So he says he's unusual because he openly questions the work of Elohim. In the first part of the first chapter, the prophet sees the injustice among his people and asks why Elohim does not take action. Oh, Yahuah, how long shall I cry for help and you will not hear, or cry to you violence and you will not save? Says, all right, I'm just going to go that far. I just really wanted to kind of get a timestamp on this. I think I had seen something about the 10 northern tribes. Well, maybe that puts that to rest. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and even though Miss Sherry is here, she's not feeling well. I'm just gonna go ahead and bring this up on screen. We're gonna go to Habakkuk. Anytime you see double K's in the English, from what I've seen, that is a Quf, just so y'all know. Here we go. Does anybody want to read the first chapter? Leah, you want to read?
I'll read.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll read. Give me 1 second here. I just dropped my phone. Oh, there we go. Hang on. Okay. Sorry. Okay. The message which the Nabi Habakkuk saw. O Yahuah, till when shall I cry and you not hear? I cry to you violence and you do not save. Why do you show me wickedness and cause me to see perversity? For ruin and violence are before me, and there is strife and contention arises. Therefore the Torah ceases and right ruling never goes forth. For the wicked hem in the righteous, so that right ruling comes out twisted. Look among the nations and see, and be amazed. Be amazed, for a work is being wrought in your days, which you would not believe if it were told. See, I am raising up the Kastites, a bitter and hasty nation who is going through the breadth of the earth to possess dwelling places that are not theirs. They are frightening and fearsome. Their right ruling and their exaltation proceed from themselves. Their horses shall be swifter than leopards and more fierce than evening wolves. And their horsemen shall charge ahead, and their horsemen come from afar. They fly as the eagle, rushing to eat. All of them come from violence. The direction of their faces is like the east wind, and they gather captives like the sand. And they scoff at sovereigns and princes, and are a laughing matter to them. They laugh at every stronghold, for they pile up earth and seize it. Then shall he pass on as a wind, and transgress, and be guilty, and ascribe his power to his mighty one. Are you not from everlasting, O Yahuah, my Elohim, my Kadosh one? You do not die, O Yahuah. You have appointed them for right ruling. O Rock, you have established them for reproof. Whose eyes are too clean to see evil? You are not able to look on wickedness. Why do you look on those who act treacherously? Keep silent when the wicked devours one more righteous than he. And would you make men like fish of the sea, like creeping creatures that have no ruler over them? All of them have been pulled up with a hook, caught in his net, and gathered in his dragnet. Therefore he rejoices and exults. Therefore he offers to his net and burns incense to his dragnet. For by them it is his portion, fat, and his food is rich. Is he therefore to keep on emptying his net and slaying nations without sparing?
I do want to look at this first word on the message and see what word it is. Ah, the burden. Why did they pick message? Burden, carry away, prophecy. So there's prophecy, Bonnie. They set song tribute. From NASA. Isn't that the word to lift? A burden, like it's from NASA, that so there's this sense of lifting, right? Yeah, it's a lift. So this word burden that's come up comes from this word to lift. So lift a burden. The lifting of it is already implied in the word. I love things like this about Hebrew. A burden, specifically tribute or abstractly porterage, figuratively an utterance. That'd be kind of like a prophecy. Chiefly a doom, especially singing, mental, desire, burden, carry away, prophecy, they set, song, tribute. Okay, maybe song, but where are they getting the word message? This is, here it's over here, it's he is to carry. According to his burden. A burden is something you carry. I don't think message is a strong enough word for this translation in HalleluYah scriptures. This one's oracle. And then a song. So maybe a song, a heavy song.
Darla, I've got pronouncement in the JPS Tanakh. It's
Yeah.
the pronouncement.
Yeah. Well, here's the Strong's Concordance on this. So we can just glean on that. A pronouncement would be like an utterance, right?
Yes, I think so.
So it could be any of these. That's the interesting thing about it, though. It could be any of these meanings, but they're coming from this word to lift, carry, take. All right, so let's go back to the Hebrew or the scripture here. The burden which Habakkuk the prophet saw. right? So he saw this, whether it's a song or something he's pronouncing or bringing before you, is lifting it before Yahuah. That seems to be what's happening. It's a burden he's seeing. So what is he bringing to him? He's like, till when shall I cry and you not hear? I cry to you violence and you do not say. So he's questioning Yahuah about, why aren't you answering? Why aren't you fixing this? Why do you show me wickedness and cause me to see perversity? That's what we talked about today. Like, we came in here, it's like, well, we don't even want to be focusing on this stuff, but we're seeing it everywhere. Why do you show me wickedness and cause me to see perversity? For ruin and violence are before me, and there is strife and contention arises. Interesting to me, when Leah was reading it, said, you know, this is going on, therefore the Torah ceases and right ruling never goes forth, because this stuff is going on. And the wrong him in the righteous, so that right ruling comes out twisted. I'm seeing that going on in my own life, like in court. It's like, what is this judge thinking?
Mhm.
Look among the nations and see, and be amazed, be amazed. He's still talking to Yahuah, right? For a work is being wrought in your days. Oh no, so who's talking here? Maybe Yahuah's talking here. I mean, I'm not going by Hebrew here, I'm just going by where the quote marks are. There's no quote. There's no up here, a quote up here. When he's talking to Yahuah, there's no quote. But now there's a quote. Yeah, it is. It's Yahuah. They're using the quote to say Yahuah's talking now. Look among the nations and see, and be amazed, for work is being wrought in your days. See, it's not a capital Y either. In your days, which you would not believe if it were told. So Yahuah's telling Habakkuk, a work is being wrought in your days, which you would not believe if it were told. See, I'm raising up the Chaldeans, a bitter and hasty nation who is going through the breadth of the earth to possess dwelling places that are not theirs. Do we see this happening today? We see
Big
it.
time.
Yeah. Those,
All possessions. They're planning on taking all possessions.
yeah.
You know, they've basically passed the law, and it's called the buy-in, where they gave the banks permission that once our money is put in the bank, it belongs to them. They can take it at any time they want, like when they need it. Like, in other words, they can just close down the banks and keep the money.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all possessions. They're going to try to take all possessions.
Yeah.
It I don't know, like I wrote in there the other day, it's like Yahuah is allowing all filthiness that's ever been to come to fruition, so that it's all the wars, everything, all perversions, everything is culminating all at once. So he can judge and wipe it out all at once. You know what I mean? Every filthiness that's ever been is all, we're going to witness it all. Possibly.
That's what it says in Revelations. That's what it's already written. It's going to get worse than we've ever seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder what it's going to look like when they only think of evil day and night.
You're seeing it. Are you seeing it over there?
I mean, we see it, but it's got to be getting worse. I mean, maybe, I don't know, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
You know, they haven't taken our money out of the bank, and you know, there's things that
not yet,
but it's a bond. You know, they've always thought that money, they're just loaning it to us to use. It belongs to them. You know, we're slaves. We're slaves. We're just sojourning here.
I'm watching this this video game with my daughter. She asked me to watch it with her. She was explaining it to me. And so then she asked me if I wanted to watch it with her. And I thought, okay, I think I'm going to watch this with her because it seems like she wants me to. And I was hearing enough about it that I thought, this sounds like what I'm expecting is going down anyway. But it's more severe, and I'm watching it with her. It's like a 9-hour video, or almost 10 hours. So this is going to take us some nights to watch it. We made it through the second half of it. We're going, and there it's a zombie apocalypse. It's apocalypse time. There's zombies. There is some sort of a mushroom fungus spores that is turning these people into zombies, and then they can bite each other, the monsters basically, and infect others. And this is definitely a different level of existence than we have today, because in this video game, which looks a lot like a movie, except for there's obviously interaction as the main character, that the player is having to kill zombies and other bandits that are going to kill him if he doesn't kill them. So there's a lot of death going on, and I'm just like, let's go forward. That bothers me. I don't want to watch that stuff. So we go forward and we just look at the storyline, and it's just this level of existence. There's no Facebook, and there's no internet, and there's no cell phones, and there's no power, and there's no gasoline, and there's nothing but death, murder, and mayhem just to survive. That is what it's kind of like on a daily basis. Just very apocalyptic, seriously.
That's what we see though, all the time. I mean, movies that you see they're zombie, they're dark, they're biting people, they're infecting people. I mean, that's nothing new. In fact, I saw a summary of the ads that are going to be on Super Bowl. It was like a preview, and one of them is about zombies. It's a guy y'all have seen. He's a comedian, and he's driving a car. It's all about electric cars too. Several about electric cars.
That.
Sorry?
I've seen that, Terri. I've seen that, Terri, here.
Yeah, he becomes a zombie. He's trying to drive through an apocalyptic glob of zombies, and they bite him, and then the next one is he's a zombie driving the car. So I mean, a zombie apocalypse, that is just biblical, that they will pray to die and they can't die.
Yeah. And what I think is so interesting about it, watching it, Terri, is that the kids of today, they can relate to this, because, and I was talking to my daughter about it last night as it was on. I'm like, how come my son Ashlyn can receive this storyline in the video game, but we can't talk to him about the same things that's happening in real life? And I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but basically it was like the fact that it's a fiction lends some level of stability and security to them, because it's not real, but they're still going through the same thing that they're going to go through in real life. So I just think it's kind of interesting that this video game is out there. And I know there's other video games, and I'm not even, talking about those. I'm just talking about this one that's like a picture of where we think, and I'm got to be careful because I know I'm recording, and I don't want, if I put this on YouTube, I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I'm going to be very careful about what I'm saying. I'll take my time, slow down a little bit. What we see and believe is happening in this video game. It's just that the video game might be 4 years, 15 years, maybe not 15, maybe 5 years in the future.
Well, they've had the zombie apocalypse stuff for a long time now, several years. The Walking Dead, I mean, that's been around 10 years.
I think this generation is being prepared for what's coming in a way that we don't need video games to understand what's coming. We can see it because we're being guided by Yahuah and his word to discern and to see what's happening. And we could imagine what life on this earth will be like in 5 years. And it could pretty much be like what is going on in that game. That's what I'm saying. I think they're being prepared for it in a way that they can receive. I don't know. I think Yahuah can use that because we can't talk to our kids about, or even anybody, you know, those who won't receive truth as it's coming. I think they can be prepared to move into, because a lot of people are just going to kill themselves. And I think that is even happens in, I was talking to Galen about it. I said, you know, why would people just not even kill themselves? And she's like, yeah, I think that is exactly what a lot of people do. Because it's a reality that you wake up every morning and it's like, okay, how many zombies and bandits do I have to kill to live today? That it's severe. All right, let's keep going here. So you got this enemy coming in, frightening and fearsome. Their right ruling and their exaltation proceed from themselves, not from Yahuah. Like they just have announced themselves sovereigns of the earth. Their horses shall be swifter than leopards and more fierce than evening wolves, and their horsemen shall charge ahead, and their horsemen come from afar. They fly as the eagle, rushing to eat. All of them come for violence. The direction of their faces is like the east wind, and they gather captives like sand. So this is taking people away from their homeland. And that's what happens when people stop serving Yahuah. When his people stop serving him, he takes them into captivity so they can become humble and seek him. They laugh at every stronghold, for they pile up earth and seize it.
What it would be a stronghold that they would laugh about?
I think it would be like our borders. Like we've got Congress right now meeting up about the borders and the situation at the borders. I would think that the stronghold is your fortifications, maybe your military. They laugh at every stronghold.
Yeah, and they're laughing as they're giving away all the military, like over to, like they're depleting our countries. You know, they're just giving it away, just using this war coverage as an excuse to send everything away. And I think the stronghold too is the crimes against children and how they mock about that. Like, you know, look at Jamie Lee Curtis with that picture hanging in her office. And
Another stronghold we could go back to is the military, and without saying what we cannot say, a lot of the military is no longer there. They've been eliminated.
yeah,
by the choice of those in the military that said we will not.
yeah.
I think we're definitely being set up to be invaded.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's the right, it's like glaringly obvious now.
Yeah, it's so obvious. And I don't understand why people aren't doing something, you know. It's like men with guns. We still have men in this country with guns, but they don't care. They don't seem to care. So
Let's look at the commentary on verse 11. Then shall he pass on as a wind and transgress and be guilty and ascribe this power to his mighty one. It's interesting verse. Remember, they talked about this being a song over in Wikipedia. What verse was that? 11. Shabbat Shalom, Sherry. By the way.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm sorry I'm late. I just remembered. I'm like, oh no. I was thinking thinking I had time, and the time just looked at the clock and I was like, eek. Sorry. I'm sorry I missed what I so far. This is really interesting.
Just something I was looking at, which was the chapter 3. So I thought, well, this is only a 3-chapter verse. So I'm going to pull out my my Holy Scriptures, open it up again. Somehow I got it closed. And I want to look at what does 11 say again, because it's saying, this is a better translation. Then shall his mind change. I'm going to find my right in here after Hosea, I think. Also, he mentioned in the Stones Tanakh, he mentioned Nahum or Nahum, chapter 1, verse 1. So I'm just going to read that real quick because I'm over there. The message concerning Nineveh. By the way, that's interesting. The book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. I don't know why they mentioned it. I thought they were going to tell us a little bit about Habakkuk there, but that's also interesting. The message concerning Nineveh. All right, let's see if I can find. There it is. It's right after. I don't know if it's because it's the book right before Habakkuk, but that's what it was meant talking about in Stones Tanakh. It mentioned it. So verse 11, it says, then shall he pass on as a wind. And it's saying it makes a better sense to say, then shall his mind change. Then he sweeps by like a wind and passes, but he is guilty, making this his strength, his deity, making this his strength, his deity. Okay. And ascribe this power to his mighty one. Okay. So this translation is saying, or the commentarist is saying, that he makes his strength his deity. By an abrupt transition, the latter half of the verse diverts our attention from the human view of the world conqueror to his appearance in Elohim's sight. Men only see an irresistible force sweeping over the face of the earth like a whirlwind. So this is what men see, an irresistible force sweeping over the face of the earth like a whirlwind. Here today and tomorrow, nothing but devastation and ruin to testify to its visit. And men are dazzled by this mighty display of power. But even as Daniel at Belshazzar's feast, Habakkuk pronounces the oppressor's doom in the very hour of triumph. Okay, so we had that note about in Wikipedia about Habakkuk brought food to Daniel when he was in the lion's den. This is why we look at these different things, because I wouldn't know what this has anything to do with. I couldn't tie it to anything if we hadn't just seen that. So I feel like Yahuah leads us to the next thing, to how do we tie this sentence to Daniel with Habakkuk? Even as Daniel at Belshazzar's feast, Habakkuk pronounces the oppressor's doom. Okay, so he's saying Daniel at Belshazzar's feast, he's pronouncing doom to Belshazzar with the writing on the wall, that incident. Okay, Habakkuk pronounces the oppressor's doom in the very hour of triumph. Okay. So again, the verse, at least according to HalleluYah scriptures, then shall he pass on as a wind and transgress and be guilty and ascribe this power to his mighty one. The description of the irresistible invader drops into the sudden depths of anticlimax, but he is counted guilty. His guilt consists just in what men deem so glorious, in his self-reliant, irresponsible pursuit of grandeur. The brute force of armaments is the supreme deity of the Chaldean. So we're talking about the Chaldean, right? In verse 6, okay. And I think, and it's Kasdim. I think Kasdim, if anybody has the time and knows Atbash commentary, coding, I think Kasdim is Babel. Kasdim is in verse 6. Let me get the spelling on this. It's Kaf, Samik, Dalet, Yod, Mem. Anyway, I'll look at that later. It can't be Babel because none of those letters would be Atbash with Babel. It's not Kasdim. There's another word, but it's not Kasdim. Okay, let me go back here.
Sorry, Darla, what word were you looking at in verse 6?
I was looking at the Chaldean, Kasdim. There's a word that is Babel. I should just be able to look it up because it's, oh, I know what it is. It's Shishak. It's Sheen. Sheen would be the cause, the Atbash for swapping out the Sheen for the Bet. It's Sheen, Kaf is is Babel, Bet Lamed. Okay, so that is an Atbash code. So I'm in the wrong word. Sorry, Shishak. Somewhere I think the Shishak is attached. That's a Hebrew word, and I think it's attached to Chaldean. So I'd have to look that up. This is easy to look up as Atbash. I believe it's Jeremiah. Atbash Jeremiah. It might be Jeremiah 51. But we'll go back to this. But he is counted guilty. His guilt consists just in what men deem so glorious, in his self-reliant, irresponsible pursuit of grandeur. The brute force of armaments is the supreme deity of the Chaldean. The brute force of his armaments. Okay, if we looked about that today, we would probably say, China, Russia, United States, Iran. Those countries kind of rise up to me as their brute force is their supreme deity. His sword and spear are, as it were, his idols. Elohim, in whose hands his breath is, and whose are all his ways, has he not glorified. Okay. His breath is in Yahuwah's hands. We just acknowledged Yahuwah has given us every breath. We cannot even take a breath in our lungs without him. But this is not what these great leaders do. He's not glorified Elohim. Therefore, that Elohim shall bring on him ruin and ignominy. This is why he does it, because he didn't give esteem to Yahuwah. And the very nations which have marveled at his prowess shall taunt and contemn him. Here then is the keynote of so much of the second canto as relates to the downfall of the invader. So verse 11 is talking about the downfall of the invader. All right. In the interest of time, we'll move on. Are you not from everlasting, O Yahuwah, my Elohim, my Kadosh one? You do not die. O Yahuwah, you have appointed them for right ruling. O Rock, you have established them for reproof. So here is his like court argument to the judge. You whose eyes are too clean to see evil, you are not able to look on wrong. Why do you look on those who act treacherously? Keep silent when the wrong devours one more righteous than ye. So he's back to his argument. And would you make men like fish of the sea, like creeping creatures that have no ruler over them? I guess he's talking about these rulers that have no ruler over them. The wicked foe has pulled all of them up with a hook, caught them in his net, and gathers them in his dragnet. Therefore he rejoices and exults. Again with the wicked foe.
Reminds me of, and I will put a hook in them. And remember that in prophecy, I will put a hook in them and draw them into battle. Remember that? The wicked.
Yep. That's Yahuwah's hook, but this one is the wicked one's hook against the people.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like the fish of the sea. But yeah, that's retribution right there. And because he's caught them in his net, he's gathered them. Therefore, he rejoices and exalts. That's what the evil guy does, the evil conqueror. Therefore, he offers to his net. Therefore, he offers to his net and burns incense to his dragnet. For by them is his portion fat and his food rich. So whatever way he's got that he controls the people, these are the things that he's worshiping. He's giving them credit for his success. Is he therefore to keep on emptying his net and slaying nations without sparing? Does anyone want to say anything else about chapter 1?
Yeah, I do. It seemed to me that America is the one that has been doing this since World War II, going in and destroying nation after nation after nation and taking over. I think it's time to be punished. Yahuwah is going to punish America. We're not doing it, but our military and our government. And who was it? Truman warned about this happening, about what was going on. He warned us about the military complex. What's it called? My voice is going. I'm sorry, guys. I'm never losing my voice. So you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
I think
Yep.
now
Military industrial complex.
thank
Yes.
you, Leah. So I believe it's time for payback.
Yeah, and I agree with also their how was it said? Their brute force is their idol. So the army is the idol. So we have the biggest army. That's why we can do everything we want.
Yeah. We've done horrible things to nations. We've
And
killed.
like you said, like you were saying, Sherry, that why isn't anybody doing anything? Because people have been brainwashed or conditioned to believe that they're the most powerful nation in the world,
Yep.
and nothing could ever befall them,
And
and
surely
they're
our
not even
government
seeing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And surely
What?
our government wouldn't do anything to hurt us because
Exactly. Yeah. Like, oh no, like we'll be at the ready, and
very
So
few
it
people are awake.
reminds me of the Egyptians, that they were ruler, and they were at that time ruling the world.
Yeah.
All their horses and all their riches, all their gold and they were
Habakkuk talks about going as eagles flying through across the land and devouring nations. That is America. I'm telling you, that is America.
Oh, that probably is. You're probably right.
Yeah, it's in here. It's amazing. And also, I believe Habakkuk also has that where I believe he sees cars, chariots going to and fro, like lightning and stuff. I believe that's in Habakkuk. I'm not positive, but I think it is. Anyways, let's keep reading. This is awesome.
Tobias, you want to read one?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Habakkuk 2. I stand at my watch and station myself on the watchtower and wait to see what he says to me and what to answer when I am reproved. And Yahuah answered me and said, write the vision and inscribe it on the tablets, so that he who reads it runs. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, and it speaks of the end and does not lie. If it lingers, wait for it shall certainly come, it shall not delay. See, he whose being is not upright in him is puffed up, but the righteous one lives by his steadfastness. And also because wine betrays him, a man is proud, and he does not stay at home, because he enlarges his appetite as the grave, and he is like death, and is not satisfied, and gathers to himself all nations, and heaps up for himself all people. Shall not all these lift up a proverb against him, and a mocking riddle against him, and say, woe to him who increases what is not his? Till when is he to load on himself many pledges? Do not your creditors rise up suddenly, and those who make you tremble wake up, and you be plunder for them? Because you have plundered many nations, all the remnant of the people shall plunder you, because of man's blood, in doing violence to the land, to the city, and to all who dwell in it. Woe to him who is getting evil gain for his house, in order to set his nest on high, to escape the clutches of evil. You have counseled shame for your house, to cut off many people, and your being is sinning. For a stone from the wall cries out, and a beam from the timbers answered it. Woe to him who builds a town by blood, and establishes a city by unrighteousness. See, it is not from Yahuah CxaBuQuWK that people labor only for fire, and nations weary themselves for naught. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the esteem of Yahuah as the waters cover the sea. Woe to him who gives drink to his neighbor, pouring out your wineskin and also making him drunk, in order to look at their nakedness. You shall be filled with shame instead of esteem. Drink, you too, and be exposed as uncircumcised. The cup of the right hand of Yahuah shall come around to you, and great shame upon your esteem. For the violence done to Lebanon is to overwhelm you, and the ravaging of beasts by which you made them afraid, because of man's blood and the violence to the land, to the city and of all who dwell in it. Of what use shall a carved image be? For its maker has carved it, a molded image and teacher of falsehood. For the maker trusts what he has made to make dumb idols. Woe to him who says to wood, awake, to silent stone, arise. Is it a teacher? See, it is overlaid with gold and silver, and there is no spirit in all inside it. But Yahuah in his set apart Hekal, let all the earth be silent before him. Yeah, it's interesting that it speaks, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, and it speaks of the end and does not lie.
Yep. Before we get there, interesting, I thought it says, I stand at my watch and station myself on the watchtower and wait to see what he says to me and what to answer when I am reproved. And then Yahuah says to him, write the vision. So this is Yahuah's response to him being in the courtroom, basically, and saying, you know, you are righteous. How can this go on? When are you going to solve these problems? When are you going to stand for righteousness against the evil? And of course, Yahuah is answering him in the first chapter as well. But he answers him now, and he says, write the vision and inscribe it on tablets so that he who reads it runs. Wow, let's go look at that commentary. Yahuah said, write the vision. Write down what I am going to say. Every divine communication by whatever means made is often spoken of in the prophetic writings under the title of a vision. When the prophets were commanded to write anything, it denoted the great importance of it and that the fulfilling of it was at some distance. So writing it down means it's not happening soon, is what this is saying, I guess. Make it plain upon tables. Write it in legible characters, that he may run that reads it, that it may be read with ease. Okay, interesting. I mean, like I literally was thinking he's got to run somewhere. Getting rid of the ad. That it may be read with ease. Write it plainly, as it says, make it plain upon tables. That may be read with ease. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. So we really need to be able to read it with ease, of course, because we are far from when this in time, in understanding, and in language. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. What I am now about to reveal to you will not be fulfilled till a certain time which Elohim has appointed, but which is yet at a distance. As this vision undoubtedly related to the destruction of the Babylonish monarchy, which is plainly foretold from Habakkuk 2, verse 5 to the end of the chapter. So that event was not to take place till about 100 years from this time. So 100 years after the time that Habakkuk wrote it. So this is, I guess this is saying, I don't know, it looks like this is saying that not the end of time like we're at now. It could be a dual fulfillment, but that the event was not to take place till about 100 years. So what is the end that it's talking about? but at the end it shall speak. When the period appointed by Elohim shall come, it shall be accomplished and not disappoint your expectation. The Hebrew is, at the end it shall break forth, namely as the morning light, which the word Yahuah here used properly and emphatically expresses, that is, the event spoken of shall break forth or appear with great clearness and evidence, and then this prophecy shall be proved a true one. Though it tarry, wait for it. Although it may be long deferred and much time may intervene before it be accomplished, yet nevertheless continue confidently to expect it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. It will not be prolonged or go beyond, namely the appointed time. That is, it will certainly be fulfilled at the time that is appointed. The word here used is not the same with that rendered tarry in the former clause. All this is addressed to the Jewish nation in answer to their complaints represented in the foregoing chapter, chapter 1. Respecting the success and prosperity of the Chaldeans, so they're to respecting the success and prosperity, notwithstanding their crimes. In reply to this, Elohim, by a prophetic vision, informs the prophet that the Chaldean nation should not go unpunished at the appointed time. He will address it. Namely, when they had filled up the measure of their iniquity, and this is the same thing that happened before Yahuah allowed the Hebrews into the land of Canaan. That iniquity had to be filled up. But they, and that's what we see now happening here. But they should be involved in a much greater destruction than the nations which they had conquered. That most of these nations would survive to see the entire overthrow and final ruin of the Chaldeans. Though Elohim may defer the execution of his promises and threatenings a long time, according to our computation, yet they are no less sure than if they were immediately accomplished. And indeed, it is only long with respect to our finite and narrow capacities. For with Elohim, the scriptures tell us 1,000 years are but as one day. Matthew Henry says, when tossed and perplexed with doubts about the methods of providence, we must watch against temptations to be impatient. When we have poured our complaints and requests before Elohim, we must observe the answers Elohim gives by his word, his ruach, and providences, what Yahuah will say to our case. Yahuah will not disappoint the believing expectations of those who wait to hear what he will say to them. All are concerned in the truths of Elohim's word. Though the promised favor be deferred long, it will come at last and abundantly recompense us for waiting. The humble, brokenhearted, repenting sinner alone seeks to obtain an interest in this salvation. So these are the ones, humble, brokenhearted, repenting. They seek to obtain an interest in this salvation. He will rest his soul on the promise and on Mashiach, in and through whom it is given. Thus he walks and works as well as lives by belief, perseveres to the end, and is exalted to esteem, while those who distrust or despise Elohim's all-sufficiency will not walk uprightly with him. The just shall live by belief in these precious promises, while the performance of them is deferred. Only those made just by belief shall live, shall be happy here and forever. Are we still here, or did I drop out?
You're still here.
Oh, thank you. Barnes says the answer is that it is indeed for a long time yet. Write the vision, that it may remain for those who come after and not be forgotten, and make it plain upon the tables whereon he was accustomed to write, and that in large lasting characters, that he may run that reads it, that it may be plain to any, however occupied or in haste. So this is a different take on this haste word. So Isaiah 2 was commanded to write the 4 words, haste, pray, speed, spoil. Wow.
I'm hearing like Daniel write the words down, Revelation, John to write these words down and don't seal up the book, or this is like, don't seal it up, write it down and don't seal this up. It's for a time to come, and it's important
that we
that
get.
they can easily read this
Yeah.
and know that there will be recompense, and there's going to be evil around, and they're going to see it. And I know it. I know what's going on, and I have a plan. I think that's what he's saying.
And here's another one in Deuteronomy 27, verse 8. Write the vision which I am about to reveal to you. Make it plain in large legible letters upon tables, that he may run that reads it, commonly explained, so intelligible as to be easily read by anyone running past. Wow. That's really cool. That's a cool concept to me.
Yeah, it's so different than Daniel seal up the book until the end times.
Yeah.
So different.
I mean, this sort of gives me confidence that Yahuah has written his word, at least this portion that he's talking to Habakkuk. He's written it in a way that tells us that if someone will read it, they'll get it. Is that how y'all see it?
I think you cut out there, Darla.
Yeah, I see it like that. They're going to read it. It's simple. It's easy. There will be judgment. There will be right rulings. You don't see it now, but if you don't see it now, you will see it. If it doesn't come quickly, stay the course. It will come. So that's what we were just talking about. The evil, all of it just seems to be encompassing us, but he promises us more righteousness, more power, more boldness as evil increases. I just cling on to that evil is never going to be more than what's available to us.
Goes on to say the true sense of what we read there is so legible that whoever reads it may run to tell all whom he can the good news, the told news of the foe's coming doom and Judah's deliverance. Now, this may be a commentary thing at Judah, but on the other hand, what we're reading about, the most imminent time that this could have been talking about was Judah being delivered from Babylon. Compare Daniel 12, verse 4, many shall run to and fro, namely with the explanation of the prophecy, then unsealed. So this is where Daniel 12:4 talks about hide the words and seal the book until the time of the end. We are not at the end yet. Let him that hears here's Revelation 22:17. Let him that hears the told news say to everyone within his reach, come. So the message is come. Run is equivalent to announce the divine revelation. And they have here Jeremiah 23:21. I'm just going to go over there and look at it because they don't have it linked there. Jeremiah 23:21. Not far. Okay, so it says here, run is equivalent to announce the divine revelation. And so 23:1 says, woe to the shepherds destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares Yahuah. As everyone who becomes informed of a divine message is bound to run. Okay, that is profound. Everyone who becomes informed of a divine message is bound. They have a responsibility to run. That is, use all dispatch to make it known to others. Okay, run is not literal running, but that he who reads it may run through it. That is, read it at once without difficulty. Okay. I'm going to read Matthew Pools. And Yahuah, on whom he waited and who rules all affairs, answered me, did hear my desire and gave direction what I should do. Right. What is only spoken is soon forgot, but what is written is more lasting. Therefore, write the vision, write you the vision showed to you. Interesting, Sherry Stadell's brother, I spoke with him this weekend, and he mentioned to me, he said, I'll probably mess this up a little bit, but the court is what is written. It's not the judge, it's not the building, it's what is written. The judge serves what's written. So I thought that was interesting. He sort of made a connection for me this week. What is written is more lasting. So that's what made me think of that. And what he was saying is what is written is the court. Therefore, write you the vision showed to you. The vision, the things you see or which you shall see, make it plain, make the writing very plain, engrave it, and was their manner upon, as was their manner upon tables, what was of public concern. That's interesting concept. And therefore to be published, was anciently written or engraven upon tables, smooth stones or wood, and then hung up in a public place to read. That he may run that reads it, that none may need to make a stop, but hold on his course. In the greatest haste of business, everyone may plainly and clearly discern what is written. And Yahuah, on whom he waited, and who rules all affairs, answered me, did hear my desire, and gave direction what I should do. This is just a repeat of this. Yep, that's just a repeat. All right, let's move on. So that was verse 2. And then we get to what Tobias was talking about. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, and it speaks of the end. So here it says end. Is it the end of Babylon? Is it the end of our days? Is it both?
Both.
That's what I'm thinking. And does not lie. If it lingers, wait for it shall certainly come. It shall not delay. He whose being is not upright in him is puffed up, but the righteous one lives by his steadfastness. So this,
I think this is a perfect description of today. I mean, what we opened class with was the evil that's going on, and you know, the sinful attractions that are evil, you know, spiritually evil, that are here. And you know I'm like, how much longer, how much more wicked can it be? I know it's got to be more wicked, but this is so horrible. You know, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this?
Remember, there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
What's been done before will be done again.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to understand that, you know, the depth of the wickedness, as we were talking about before class. You know, why, when is it going to come? How much more wicked can it be?
I think we're very close because they're messing with kids now, you know?
I know. How can the Father see that? We can't even speak of it. We can't even bear it.
Well, I was thinking about Sodom and Gomorrah, and what's going on in the world right now is we're almost to that point that Sodom and Gomorrah was, you know, with such perversion. And also, you know, he's going to come Yeshua's going to come back when we don't expect him. I keep thinking about that. When do we expect him? After it's time for the mark of the beast, or before? I would think if he was going to come and nobody expected him, it would be before the mark of the beast happens, but that can't be. So I don't know.
Maybe
I think it's
the
going to be when
mark
we
of the
don't.
beast. You know, a mark, we're marked in our DNA. We're marked. You know, we have his name written in our DNA. So
that's true. Yeah.
I've often wondered, maybe the mark of the beast is that you don't have his name written in your DNA. You're marked.
You might be right, but that doesn't stop us from buying and selling yet. It did there for a while.
Yeah, but that could be tomorrow. They could do something like that, you know, tomorrow. But this is describing today, you know, your creditors and blood. And like Sherry said, I've just got this vision of all this abomination and this gender crisis. This just horrific for our children. I can just see these people. My visual is them shaking their fists at Noah when it starts raining, like open the door and they're all dressed up with all this makeup and garb and all this on. And
Oh my gosh, you're right. Yep.
I can see that in my head, and
So can I.
and they're exactly those people. They look exactly like those people, and the father shut the door. It's over. There comes a time, like we were talking about, when let them be wicked. Go on, be wicked, be filthy. Go on.
Yep.
It's over.
Also, they were in there protected for 7 days before before it started, the flood started.
Yeah.
So, maybe, I don't know.
They had to believe too for those 7 days, like, okay, it hadn't started raining yet.
They had to trust.
Do I really hear that? Maybe the wind shut that door. Yeah.
Foolish.
Yeah, it will surely come. Oh,
But I know we need to be prepared now. There's no time to say, oh, I'll do it later. We need to be prepared right now. Besides that, who's to say we're not going to drop dead today? Right? So people need to be prepared to stand before the judge at all times, but especially in these days.
One of the things that I think is interesting in the Hebrew versus the English, or the comparison of the two, is when do the translators decide, is this a capital H or a small h? This guy is living by his being puffed up here. This is his existence. He's not upright. His being is not upright in him, and he's puffed up. But the righteous one lives by his steadfastness. Is this a small h or is it supposed to be a capital H? I don't know. Maybe it's both.
I see him, but I think it could apply to both. Lives by, like I would live by my steadfastness in these horrific times. I am living, trying to be steadfast, but I'm steadfast in his righteousness.
Steadfastness, yeah. He is trustworthy to us. Man is always letting him down. We try to live in our steadfastness in him. That is our heart. But I think this could be a capital H, and it could be both. And then it says, okay, so his being is not upright in him. He's puffed up. He's prideful. Also, because wine betrays him, a man is proud. And he does not stay at home because he enlarges his appetite as the grave. Well, this could be a leader, or it could be a person. We've all heard of husbands who don't stay at home, right? Appetite is the grave, and he is like death. In this particular case, I think we're talking more about a leader, but point being is that it's not just the leaders, it's the people too. Abraham Gileadi in IsaiahExplained.com, he talks about how the leaders are a reflection of the people who've basically voted them in. So shall not these lift up a proverb against him and a mocking riddle against him and say, woe to him who increases what is not his. Till when is he to load on himself many pledges? I think this is interesting, this idea of a proverb and a mocking riddle.
Uh-huh.
We have to, if we want to put anything out on Y and the T, we have to guard what we say, and we have to talk in riddles.
Yeah, we do.
We cannot speak the
So
truth.
careful.
Yeah. So here's a riddle and a mocking, it's like they can't just come out and say how it is. They've got to talk in riddles.
Yeah.
Do not your creditors rise up suddenly, and those who make you tremble wake up, and you be a plunder for them. I know in the United States, we've talked a lot about our debt, rising and rising debt, and how we'll never get out of it, and how our children will just be born into slavery, which of course we all are. What does 8 say? Because you have plundered many nations, all the remnant of the people shall plunder you because of men's blood and doing violence to the land, to the city, and to all who dwell in it.
That is America. I'm telling you, that is America. We have plundered so many nations. We've had presidents killed and, prime ministers killed, assassinated. This is the most evil country. I've never voted, and I can't vote. I just can't because, most people say, well, vote for the less of two evils. But evil is still evil, and I cannot participate in it. I don't know what to do because I don't know how to fight back, I don't vote. I have no part of it. This is not my country. And I think you guys probably feel the same way. We're waiting for a country. We're waiting for our country.
Amen, Sherry.
Our city. Yep.
So over here on the right side, pulpit commentary. The law of retaliation is asserted. All the remnant of the people or peoples shall spoil you. The remnant of the nations subjugated and plundered by the Chaldeans shall rise up against them. The downfall of Babylon was brought about chiefly by the combined forces of Media, Persia, and Elam, and it is certain that Nebuchadnezzar at one period of his reign conquered and annexed Elam, and there is every probability that he warred successfully against Media, and doubtless many of the neighboring tribes which had suffered under these oppressors joined in the attack. We hear rumors about this all the time, who's coming against us. Because of men's blood, because of the cruelty and bloodshed of which the Babylonians were guilty, for the violence done to the land of the city. The statement is general, but with special reference to the Chaldeans' treatment of Judea and Jerusalem. Jerome takes the violence of the land, etc., to mean the wickedness of the Jews themselves, which is to be punished. He is led astray by the Septuagint, which gives through the iniquity of the land. Look at Matthew Henry's commentary. The prophet reads the doom of all proud and oppressive powers that bear hard upon Yahuah's people. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life are the entangling snares of men. And we find him that led Israel captive, himself led captive by each of these. No more of what we have is to be reckoned ours than what we come honestly by. Riches are but clay, thick clay, which are gold and silver, but white and yellow earth. What are gold and silver but white and yellow earth? Okay. Those who travel through thick clay are hindered and dirtied in their journey. So are those who go through the world in the midst of abundance of wealth. And what fools are those that burden themselves with continual care about it, with a great deal of guilt in getting, saving, and spending it, and with a heavy account which they must give another day. They overload themselves with this thick clay and so sink themselves down into destruction and perdition. See what will be the end thereof. What is gotten by violence from others, others shall take away by violence. Also a Revelation conversation there. Covetousness brings disquiet and uneasiness into a family. He that is greedy of gain troubles his own house. What is worse, it brings the curse of Elohim upon all the affairs of it. The curse of Elohim upon all the affairs of those that are greedy for gain. There is a lawful gain, which by the blessing, the barakot of Elohim may be a comfort to a house, but what is got by fraud and injustice will bring poverty and ruin to a family. Yet that is not the worst. You have sinned against your own soul, have endangered it. Those who wrong their neighbors do much greater wrong to their own souls. Wow. If the sinner thinks he has managed his frauds and violence with art and contrivance, the riches and possessions he heaped together will witness against him. There are not greater drudges in the world than those who are slaves to mere worldly pursuits. And what comes of it? They find themselves disappointed of it and disappointed in it. They will own it. They will own it is worse than vanity. It is vexation of spirit. By staining and sinking earthly esteem, Elohim manifests and magnifies his own esteem and fills the earth with the knowledge of it as plentifully as waters cover the sea, which are deep and spread far and wide. Barnes says, because or for, the prophet assigns the reason of the woes he had just pronounced. You have spoiled many nations. All the resident of the people shall spoil you. So Isaiah 33 verse 1, when you shall cease to spoil, you shall be spoiled. When you shall make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with you. Boundless as his conquests were, each remaining people, tribe, or family shall be his foe. Theodotion, having subdued very many, you shall be destroyed by few. And they who longed endured your tyranny, arising as from sleep, shall compass your destruction, and you shall pay the penalty of your countless slaughters and your great unrighteousness and your lawless violence to cities which you're modest, desolate of inhabitants. Nothing was too great or too little to escape this violence. All the remnant, Theodotion, as you invading did take away the things of others, in like way shall what pertains to you be taken away by those who are left for vengeance. Jeremiah foretold of Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah. This is before the Babylonian captivity. An expansion of the prophecy in the reign of Jehoiakim. Thus said the Yahuah of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. And upon Elam I will bring the four winds from the four quarters of the heavens, and will scatter them toward all these winds. And there shall be no nation where the outcast of Elam shall not come, for I will cause Elam to be dismayed before her enemies. But it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, said Yahuah. Elam is also counted by Ezekiel in 32 verses 17 to 32 among those who together with Pharaoh should be brought down to the grave, with Asher, Meshach, Tabal, Edom, and all the Zidonians by the sovereign of Babylon. They were then all which remained of the nations which he had conquered, who should be gathered against his house. Babylon is called in Jeremiah 50 verse 23, the hammer of the whole earth. I think this is in one of Terri's terms on one of her tables.
I just love that visual.
Right. And then Jeremiah 51:7, a golden cup in Yahuwah's hand that made all the earth drunken. So true. Made all the earth drunken. We're looking at the earth that is drunken. We see it, we feel it, we discern it. Jeremiah 25, a destroying mountain, which destroys the whole earth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. Isaiah 14:7, after Babylon, which made it to tremble. And Isaiah 14, verse 16, is overthrown. So after Babylon, which made it to tremble, is overthrown. So Satan had, by violence and deceit, subdued the whole earth. Yet Mashiach made him a spoil to those whom he had spoiled. And the strong man was bound, and his goods spoiled, and himself trampled underfoot. Yet here, as throughout the prophets, it is a remnant only which is saved. Cyril says Satan too was spoiled by the remnant of the people, i.e. by those justified by Mashiach and sanctified in the Ruach, for the remnant of Israel was saved. All right, let's go back. So here's a woe to him who is getting evil gain for his house, in order to set his nest on high, to escape the clutches of evil. Okay, this is an interesting verse. So he's getting evil gain to escape the clutches of evil. Wow.
At my nest, I agree with Sherry on that. It seems like that's like America, to escape the clutches of evil, to set his nest on high, evil gain for his house.
Yeah, to me, it looks also a little bit like he's getting the quote, the fruits of evil, but hoping to escape the consequences of evil.
Like the elite.
Yeah, exactly. That's all the stuff in there. Yeah. And they don't want to fall in the clutches of evil, but they are evil and they're getting evil gain.
They're the ones that are going to be crying out for the mountain to fall on them, the rocks.
Yeah. In order to set his nest on high, almost like the Tower of Babel, get high to escape.
Exactly. It reminds me of Satan, right?
Yeah.
Wanted to set his. Go ahead, Teza.
When you guys read the word woe in the scriptures, do you see that as a curse to those who it's being said to?
I don't know if it's a curse more than it's like a whoa, you are in some serious trouble. That's kind of how I take it.
Because in the Brit Hadashah, each time Yeshua turned around and said, woe to, that was cursed. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were when I end up reading the word woe.
It could be a curse or just like a huge warning.
I'll tell you one thing, it's got the letters of Yahuah's name in it.
Whoa.
All 3 letters of Yahuah's name in it.
Look what it says in the book of Revelation. Woe, the 3 woes.
Yeah, there it seems like it's a curse. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's used in a couple of different ways.
We see on the right here, it's alas. It also says akin to oi. Alas, sinful. So like just in terms of the context, there's mourning here. There's alas sinful nation. I meant to say, like, this is the context. Who it's said to or about.
Declares.
This one is I will ease, or I will be relieved of my adversaries. So there's a sense of alas, like finally, or some sort of revelation. Ah, or ha, outcome. And we could look at let's see what I can just go get a new link to. We could look at Webster's 1828 dictionary for woe and see what's there. I think that would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, they don't want to give me, did I misspell it? What? So it's not there. I wonder what this word is.
Okay.
This might be it. There we go. There we go. So
yeah, there it is.
Says grief, sorrow, misery, a heavy calamity, one who is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more after. Interesting, they spell it W-O here, but it's W-O-E-S here. They weep each other's woe. So they spelt it without an E. It's a curse.
Yeah.
A woe or curse in all the stores of vengeance equal to the malignity of such a practice.
Wow.
Used in denunciation and in exclamations of sorrow. So we could.
So that is a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah, so it's not only a grief and a sorrow and a misery and a heavy calamity and they curse, but I'm seeing also it's a denunciation and an exclamation of sorrow.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Woe is me, for I am undone. This was Isaiah when he had the vision of being in heaven, where just before, they put the coal to his mouth. This is properly a Saxon dative. Woe is to me. So Saxon, when you see the word Saxon or Anglo-Saxon, Saxon is Isaac's sons or Isaac's son. I learned that from Stephen M. Collins, who did all the research on the tribes of Israel, all 12. Saxon, like that is, when I was a child, that's what they put on your school records, that you were, if you're white, you were Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon, you belong to Isaac's sons. Is that not amazing?
Yeah.
Your identity was on your school records.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
It's just profound. It's profound to me. I think that's profound.
That is, yeah. I remember reading whenever you turned around and ticked stuff back when, my early days, that's what they had on there. Are you Anglo-Saxon?
Avraham Gileadi talks about how the government, the heads of the government that you, for instance, say in the United States, it's the president, it could be prime minister, that head has been put there by Yahuah to watch over the children of Israel. That's their job, to watch over the children of Israel and to bring the children back to the land, like prepare them, keep them so that they can be brought back to the land someday.
Who is? I'm sorry,
Wow.
sister, I missed that.
The head of the nations. Each nation, they've been put there by Yahuah to watch over the children of the tribes.
Cool.
To bring them, be prepared to hand them over when the time comes that they are to go.
Wow, that is cool.
Woe be to the day. Might be a more easier way for us to regard that than woe worth the day. Woe be to the day. Woe is a noun, and if used as an adjective, it is improperly used. Woe to you that are rich. Woe to that man by whom the offense comes. That is misery, calamity, be or will be to him. So when you say woe, it's like saying calamity too. It is a denunciation and it is also a noun. Interesting. All right, let me get back to the scriptures over here.
Thank you for going there, Darla.
I think it's so because I know oi, if I write it out, sometimes I have to write words out. Oi. So that's an olive. I think it's an olive. Wa yod. And it's right down here anyway. Let's see. Oi. Let's see how to spell this. Yeah, olive wa yod. And that means woe. Alas, woe. Probably from a wah in the sense of crying out after, lamentation also. Oh. So I don't know if this is, let's see what uses this is. Woe to you, O Moab, alas, who shall live? And they said, woe to us, for there has not been such a thing heretofore. Woe to us, who shall deliver? Who has woe, who has sorrow? So here this word is attached to sorrow. Who has woe, who has sorrow? They do not even conceal it. Woe to them, for they have brought woe unto their soul. We see this a lot today. They don't even conceal it. Woe to the wicked, it will go badly. It shall be ill. Woe to the wicked badly. Woe to us, for we are ruined. This one's alas for me, the treacherous. Woe is me, for I faint. All right, so this is Aleph Wa Yod, but the other one is Hey Wa Yod. And like I said, it's pretty interesting that it's got the letters of Yahuah's name in it. This is an English, this is an English letter, by the way. So if I wanted to just see how this is spelled, there it is with the Wa. That's just a mistake on the Bible Hub. And then it's also an interjection. I think that's pretty interesting that it has the letters of Yahuah's name. All right. You have counseled shame for your house. How much bad counsel have we seen over the last couple of years? Even putting people into positions over us that had been in our faces on a daily basis, on anything online. You have counseled shame for your house to cut off many peoples, and your being is sinning. I would just really see a Dr. F right there. Among others, I would see a Dr. F there. For a stone from the wall cries out, and a beam from the timbers answers it. I think this is talking about idols. We could look at that though. Commentary 11. Every stone in those giant walls reared by the enforced labor of captives cries aloud to accuse the Babylonian. Every spar out of the woodwork attests to the charge. That's sort of the idea I've had before, that Yahuah can call anything as a witness, by the way. Anything on your desk can be a witness to what you did on your computer screen, right? Everything can be a witness to Yahuah. Anything. Your walls, the light bulb, you go outside, your rose bush. Yahuah can use anything as a witness. And every stone in those giant walls reared by the enforced labor of captives cries aloud to accuse the Babylonian. Even inanimate things shall raise their voice to denounce the Chaldeans' wickedness. The stone shall cry out of the wall. This is a proverbial expression to denote the horror with which their cruelty and oppression were regarded. It is particularly appropriate here, as these crimes had been perpetrated in connection with the buildings in which they prided them. So the buildings were unwilling participants in that. Selves, and which were raised by the enforced labor of miserable captives and adorned with the fruits of fraud and pillage. Compare another application of the expression in Luke 19, verse 40. Jerome quotes Cicero. Let's find an English version of this, maybe. No English version. Okay. Wordsworth sees a literal fulfillment of these words in the appalling circumstances at Belshazzar's feast, when a hand wrote on the palace wall the doom of Babylon, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. The tie beam out of the timber work shall take up the refrain and answer the stone from the wall. Two witnesses. The Hebrew word kaphis, rendered beam, is this word in Greek. It is explained as above by St. Jerome, being referred to a verb meaning to bind. We talked about the word bind today. So this Hebrew word rendered beam is refers to a verb meaning to bind. It says, we have no evidence that the Babylonians in their sumptuous edifices interlaced timber and half bricks. The Septuagint gives this word a beetle, a worm from the wood, hence referring to Mashiach on the execution stake. Okay. All right, let's go back. They're saying there may be some reference to Yahushua there in verse 11. A stone from the wall cries out, and a beam from the timbers answers it. Or something bound. Woe to him who builds a town by blood and establishes a city by unrighteousness. Says it is not from Yahuah Zabaoth that peoples labor only for fire and nations weary themselves for nothing. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the esteem of Yahuah as the waters cover the sea. Well, we know the waters cover the sea. And I think that's our longing, is that the earth would be filled with the knowledge of Yahuah. Like, I think that's a prayer. When we read it, I was thinking that's a prayer right there, that we can speak, we can return his words to him. I think it's in Hosea 14, perhaps in verse 1 or 1 to 3, somewhere in there. Triumph for truth. What is his name? Somebody help me. G. Stephen Simons. He shared a verse there that talks about returning words to Yahuah. And he's like, what better words to return to Yahuah than his own words? So when we are wanting Yahuah's righteousness to come, we can just speak his own words right back to him. His word says that his word will not return to him void. So we can just pray and say, for the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the esteem of Yahuah as the waters cover the sea. That's a beautiful prayer for us today, on this day of wicked idolatry on his Shabbat. Father, let the earth be filled, like your word says, with the knowledge of your esteem as the waters cover the sea. I got rain here, heavy rain. I'm going to turn my mic off. I'm hoping somebody has something to say about verse 15.
I've noticed that people that I know close to me in my family who used to drink not a lot, they weren't alcoholics, but they would always have wine, maybe 1 or 2, glasses of wine at night. And her husband didn't drink, and she would always encourage him so much. Come on, just have just a little bit. I'm going to pour you just a little bit of this. So it just seems like people who drink they want others to drink around them, or people who don't drink don't want, people, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to have people who don't drink around. It's people who drink a lot. They want everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, this just happens to be my sister.
Right, and it's not just drink.
Yeah, and now he does with her. He joins in with her, but he didn't at first. He didn't want to, but she was persistent.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't be alone. And I just thought that was so, I don't know. Anyway, they don't drink like that anymore, but that is something I noticed that.
Did you say they don't drink anymore?
Not really. Not
Oh, that's
really.
great. They overcame that.
They did.
That's
They sure did.
Hallelujah. Yeah, this doesn't have to just be alcohol. This could be, here's the purpose of it. in order to look on their nakedness. You have people trying to get people to do drugs. You have people selling ecstasy at bars. Why? So somebody can get to see someone's nakedness and do beyond that with them. Somebody causing somebody to not be sober, and so they can take advantage of them. I've even heard that the reason we have sports is to keep the people occupied.
Yeah, that's what Rome did, you know, put them in the Colosseums, and that was a great reward. Give them a few days off and let them watch each other with blood sport.
Yeah.
Big festival. That's what we've got actually going on tonight.
Yeah.
Satan's been trying to distract people from the beginning, so absolutely. Sports, everything is a distraction. Video games, the little handheld, on your phones and stuff, all that stuff is designed to keep us busy. So we're not searching, not spending time with each other or searching the scriptures or, spending time with Father. It's all designed to take up our time.
So they're talking about drinking here, causing the neighbors to get drunk, and then says you're going to be filled with shame instead of esteem. Drink you too and be exposed as uncircumcised. Uh-oh. Uncircumcised. And then it talks about the cup of the right hand of Yahuah shall come around to you, and great shame upon your esteem. You're going to be drinking shame.
Do you think that could also be like pharmakia, them drugging people, giving them the antidepressants and Valium and anything they want, really, to keep them busy, to keep them, dull, so they can take advantage of us.
It's not what Yahuah meant for us. He told us how to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do that though when they're spraying us like insects, with barium, lithium, and aluminum, making us not remember even who we are. Literally, with the aluminum and Alzheimer's, we don't remember. We already have a hard time remembering who we really are.
My memory's getting really bad. It's kind of scary.
Well, what can we do about that? We just can pray for protection. I mean, it's in our soil, it's in our water, what can you do really?
Well, first of all, we can read, do things with our mind, do crossword puzzles, read the scriptures, study, dig into them, use our mind.
Oh, sure. But I'm saying,
can't really come again. I don't know what to do about the stuff they're putting in our brain.
Right.
I think it helps.
Helmet of salvation. Armor up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yahuah will protect his own.
Most people don't know or even accept that maybe they ought to be researching things like fluoride, aluminum in the deodorant. These are choices. We can choose not to put those things in our bodies or on our bodies. We may not be able to choose what they're spraying over our head, but there are so many things that we can make the right choices on and research. If we hear there's a problem with something, research it and then make the right choice.
It says in scripture that those who keep his Sabbaths, he will baruch their water and their food and household. It is written in the scriptures.
Beautiful.
That's true. Wow.
Specific food and water. And what was the other one? And their household. Wow.
Household.
That's great, Tessa. Can you get us a scripture for that?
Yeah, I'm just looking it up.
Thank you, sister. Well, we'll go on while you're looking for that. So verse 17, for the violence done to Lebanon is to overwhelm you, and the ravaging of beasts by which you made them afraid, because of men's blood and the violence of the land, to the city and to all who dwell in it. Verse 18 goes on to say, of what use shall a carved image be? For its maker has carved it, a molded image and teacher of falsehood, For the maker trusts what he has made to make dumb idols. Woe to him who says to wood, awake, to silent stone, arise. Is it a teacher? See, it is overlaid with gold and silver, and there is no spirit at all inside it. I've heard people talk about spirits hiding behind idols, that they could receive that worship. You guys ever heard anything about that? Like,
I mean, it makes perfect
Well,
sense. Makes
Paul says that they sacrifice to demons when they sacrifice their meat, to not eat meat that's been sacrificed to idols. Yeah. So yeah, there's some truth to that.
interesting that we've got wood and stone here, and then we had it up here, I think in 11 maybe. Yep, here we go.
Also interesting that they were talking about wine, because wine is as a spirit, there's spirits.
Yes.
Wine, liquor are spirits.
Yeah. You got to go to the liquor store and it tells you right there it's spirits. Y'all
Absolutely.
think about that.
Yep.
They don't just
I have it.
Yeah.
I made a mistake by saying your household. It means your sickness. It's Exodus 23:25, and you shall serve Yahuah your Elohim, and he shall baruch your bread and your water, and I shall. This is him speaking, and I shall remove your sicknesses from your midst. That's Exodus 23:25.
Bring it up so everybody can see it. And you shall serve Yahuah your Elohim, and he shall baruch your bread and your water, and I shall remove sickness from your midst. Did you say it was something about Shabbat in here?
No, it does say something there with it. Those who keep his Sabbaths, I think if you go back further.
Mm-hmm.
3 times a year, this is when he's talking about them going to the land.
Yeah, for Passover and Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, and also for Sukkot.
ShaBaT.
Yeah.
And Sukkot, yeah.
All right. So, and then again, here's the 3 times a year, and he goes into that just below here. And then here we go, 6 days. So basically, he's talking about obeying his commands. The 7th day is your rest.
There is a verse that talks about the baruch that you receive on Shabbat by keeping Shabbat.
Yeah. And
well, in Malachi 3:10, he turns around and talks about that too.
What does that say? What's the wording on that? I can look it up.
I can go there.
Bring the fullness of the tide into the storehouses, so that there may be food in my house.
Yeah.
Test me.
About the tithes. Where is the one about the Shabbat? If you keep my Shabbat, what is the blessing he says?
He says that he sanctifies us on Shabbat, but I don't know if I can quickly. Somebody else says I might be able to find it for us.
It's a sign between us. It's a sign that we're his. Like a wedding ring.
Those are scriptures as well.
Mm-hmm.
For
but
now,
it's like a set apart, different baruch, isn't it? It's separate. It's different than.
Because he sanctifies us on Shabbat. He sanctifies us.
And what's your definition of sanctify?
Let's go look it up. Because I want to put it up here so everybody can see it. It's kadosh, yeah. Eric Bissell talks about kadosh as with the letter Quf, that it's like a pitcher that's pouring out. If you can imagine, let me stop share for a minute and turn on my camera.
Terri, were you talking about the scripture where it says with the Sabbaths, if you guard my Sabbaths, by all means, for a sign between me and you for all generations, and know that I am Yahuah. I am
Yes,
setting you apart.
that one, but there was like a specific, if you keep my Shabbats, then
And you shall guard my Sabbath, for it is set apart, and everyone who profanes it. That's in Exodus 2 as well.
but there's a special Baruch. There's a special thing he does. He gives us if you keep my Shabbat.
Yeah.
If you keep my
In
Shabbat, then
Ezekiel,
I don't
Ezekiel
know.
does that.
I don't know where it is.
I think there's also a key involved as well. But we were talking about the word sanctify. And
Sorry, Darla.
here's an example here. Like if you have a pitcher, I imagine this is a pitcher. It's just a big ice cream cup is what it is. But if you had a pitcher from heaven pouring out and you have the water pouring out, that's the shape of a Q, which is a kuf, right? Kuf is an English or a Hebrew Q. So it is from heaven. It is what's not touched by man. So now we're going to go look up what sanctify means here in HalleluYah, or the Webster's 1828 dictionary. In a general sense, to cleanse, purify, or make. I'm not even going to use the word holy. I just use kadosh. Make it kadosh. What is like from heaven? What is like from heaven? To separate, set apart, or appoint to a kadosh, sacred or religious use. It's set apart to Yahuah. That's also a deity, which is why, I mean, really there is no pure English word for this. Sanctify has got some issues.
Yeah.
Separate might be okay. But generally the HalleluYah scriptures just goes to kadosh because there's issues with the English words. To purify, to prepare for divine service or for partaking of kadosh things, to separate, ordain, and appoint to the work of redemption and the government of the church, of the assembly of Yahuah. To cleanse from corruption, sanctify, corruption. To purify from sin, to make kadosh by detaching. Oh, wow. To make kadosh by detaching the affections from the world and its defilements and exalting them to a supreme love to Elohim.
I love that one.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That would make a beautiful meme.
Yeah, and here we are on Shabbat, and the world is partying, eating Fritos and dip, and here, just what a difference, what a difference.
Exactly. The love that they have right now is not for Yahuah. It's for the world, the affections of the world. That's what we're grieving. The world is in love with the world.
And that's what we have turned away from. And so he's pouring out his love really on us as we are in him. We're in him.
And these are the words of Yahushua, also known as Jesus. John 17, verse 17, and where he's praying to his Father just before his death, sanctify them through your truth. Your word is truth.
Yeah.
So your word, not the world.
Right. So it's like we're abiding in him, like we are in communion with him, abiding within him on this day.
Because we're in his word too. Yeah, there is a scripture, I don't know where it's at, but he says that on Shabbat, he sanctifies us on his appointed time. And it does talk about it as a sign of his people. All right, let's go back. There we go. But Yahuwah is in his Kadosh Hekal temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Like, this is Shabbat today. And the Super Bowl is not going to be a silent place, right? This is a time to be silent before him. It's a time of rest. His people are supposed to be resting today. And regarding his word, he says he sanctifies his people on his Shabbat, and then his son said his word sanctifies us. So we should be in his word on Shabbat. Anybody else have anything they want to share in chapter 2 before we move on to 3? I'm going to move on. Does anybody else want to read? Okay. I was brought over to this chapter this week, and I think Terri also said she was here. Maybe just yesterday, two of us. Let's see who's. Bonnie, are you here with us?
I am back.
Yay.
Me and Mr. Snoddy.
Okay.
Hang on, where am I? Here. Get my coffee. That one. Me and Mr. Snoddy, who will hopefully fall asleep now. So I'm having a coffee and a pie for breakfast, and I'm here.
Awesome. Okay. We're just about to read Habakkuk Chapter 3.
Oh, cool.
It's a really great chapter. Here we go. A prayer of Habakkuk the prophet on Shigionoth. I do not know what this word is. We're going to look it up because I'm interested.
It says melodious instruments. When somewhere in the commentary it said chapter 3 is a song.
Hey, very great. So that's a musical instrument. Okay. O Yahuah, I have heard your report. I was afraid. O Yahuah, renew your work in the midst of the years. Make it known in the midst of the years. In wrath, remember compassion. Eloah comes from Timon, and the Kadosh one from Mount Paran, Selah. His splendor shall cover the heavens, and his praise shall fill the earth. And the brightness is as the light. He has raised from his hand, and there his power is hidden. Before him goes pestilence, and a burning flame or a fever goes forth at his feet. He shall stand and measure the earth. He shall look and shake the nations, and the ancient mountains are shattered. The age-old hills shall bow. His ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Cushan under sorrow. The curtains of the land of Midian tremble. Shall Yahuah burn against the rivers? Is your displeasure against the rivers? Is your wrath against the sea? That you ride on your horses, your chariots of deliverance? You uncover your bow, the os of the rod of the word. Selah, you cut through the earth with rivers. The mountains shall see you, they tremble. The storm of water shall pass over. The deep shall give forth its voice. It shall lift up its hands. Sun, moon shall stand still in their places. Like light, your arrows fly. Like lightning is your glittering spear. You step through the earth in rage. You thresh the Gentiles in wrath. You shall go forth to save your people, to save your anointed. You shall smite the head from the house of the wrong by laying bare from foundation to neck. Selah. You shall pierce with his own arrows the head of his leaders. They stormed along to scatter me, rejoicing as if to devour the poor in secret. You shall tread the sea with your horses, the foaming of many waters. I heard and my body trembled. My lips quivered at the sound. Rottenness came into my bones, and I trembled within myself that I might rest for the day of distress, to come upon the people who would attack us. Though the fig tree does not blossom, and there is no fruit on the vine, the yield of the olive has failed, and the fields brought forth no food. The flock has been cut off from the fold, and there is no herd in the stalls. Yet I exult in Yahuah. I rejoice in the Elohim of my deliverance. Yahuah, the master, is my strength, and he makes my feet like those of deer, and makes me walk on my high places. To the chief singer with my stringed instruments.
Darla, in verse 2, can you go to verse 2?
Yeah. You want Hebrew? commentary?
You can, yeah, but what I noticed here is he's answering Isaiah 53. The first line of Isaiah 53 is, "Who has believed our report?"
Wow.
So he's answering that. He's quoting Isaiah. I don't know who came first, Isaiah or Habakkuk, but I have heard your report. I was afraid. Who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of Yahuah been revealed? And it seems like he's answering that here. That's cool, isn't it?
That's so interesting. Let's go look. Let's go look up just a quick look at Isaiah Wikipedia.
Isaiah 53 verse 1. It's
Yep. Let's see when this book was written. 8th
So-
century. So that was before. That was before him.
so Isaiah is quoting Habakkuk here.
I think
Is
that's
that right?
yeah, before he was before Habakkuk was born, according to the Wikipedia date that it gave us, Isaiah was already lived and died.
Yeah, so that's, I have heard your report, and who has believed our report?
Let me restate that. This is talking about when Isaiah was written, not the life of Isaiah. So so that means Isaiah was written between 740 BC, with the 10 northern tribes leaving in 722 BC, and the other time would be 686 BC. So if Habakkuk wrote in 612 BC, then there's about what, 70 years, 72 years or something, 74 years difference. Yeah. So yeah, I have heard your report. I think that's so interesting you picked up on that.
It's but Isaiah 53, I always remember this, has been said to be the fulcrum of the universe. The fulcrum point of the universe.
There's also Isaiah 6. Let's check that out real quick. So this was Isaiah with his vision of Yahuah. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh is Yahuah of hosts. All the earth is filled with his esteem. And then he says, and I heard the voice of Yahuah saying, whom do I send, and who would go for us? And I said, here am I, send me. And he said, go, and you shall say to this people, hearing you hear, but do not understand, and seeing you see, but do not know. Make the heart of this people fat and their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart, and shall turn and be healed. And again, Isaiah says, until when? Yahuah, until when? It's kind of like Habakkuk's message. And he answered, until the cities are laid waste and without inhabitant, and the houses are without a man, and the land is laid waste, a ruin. And Yahuah has removed men far away, and the forsaken places be many in the midst of the land. But still there is a 10th part in it, and it shall again be for a burning, like a terebinth tree, and like an oak, whose stump remains when it is cut down. The set apart seed is its stump. So Habakkuk had said, I have heard your report. I was afraid. O Yahuah, renew your work in the midst of the years. Make it known in the midst of the years. In wrath, remember compassion. You definitely want to look at the commentary on this. And then that box out of the way so I can get rid of the ad. Or two ads. Okay. Benson says, oh, Yahuah, I've heard your speech and was afraid. I have heard what you have revealed to me concerning your judgments to be executed. first upon your own people, and afterward upon their enemies, the Chaldeans, and the terribleness of them has filled me with a reverential awe and dread. O Yahuwah, revive or preserve alive your work in the midst of the years. So he's saying revive means to preserve alive your work in the midst of the years. Habakkuk, having understood by divine revelation that some time would intervene between the desolation of Judea and the punishment of the Chaldeans, here entreats Elohim that during that interval he would preserve or take care of his work, that is his Israel. So Israel, that's a different term than Judah. And I don't know what is regarded in Habakkuk, but Judah does not mean Israel. Judah is the southern tribes. That is his Israel, that work of his hands which he had formed for himself, that they might show forth his praise, together with the work of his favor in and among them, that he would keep and that spark alive amidst the waters of tribulation and temptation through which they had to pass. Although all men are the work of Elohim, yet the Jews might be called so more emphatically, because he had by many extraordinary interpositions raised them to be a peculiar people to himself, and had formed them such by laws given to them in a singular manner, not used with regard to any other people. Okay, so what we can say about this is that when this commentator wrote this, he did not have an understanding that it was not just the Jews, it was all 12 tribes. Judah is one tribe. He's raised to them to be a peculiar people to himself. This is 12 tribes, and they are alive and kicking today. They may or may not know who they are yet, but they will know. Yahuah will reveal it to them. In the midst of the years, make known. In wrath, remember mercy. Or as Grotius interprets the clause, in that intervening time, show that although you are angry, you remember mercy. In the midst of these years of calamity, let your people experience that even in your indignation, that you think upon mercy and do not lay more upon them than you enable them to bear. The years here referred to seem plainly to be those in which the Jews were under the power of the Chaldeans and Judea lay desolate. Mr. Green translates the verse, O Yahuwah, I have heard your report. That is what you have revealed concerning the captivity. So if 612 was before 586 BC. So he's like, I've heard your report about this captivity. They're going into Babylon. I am in pain, O Yahuwah, for your work. That is the Jewish people. In this case, it is the Jewish people that went into this captivity. The 10 northern tribes had already gone into captivity into Assyria in 722 BC. I'm in pain, O Yahuwah, for your work. In the midst of the years, revive it. Restore the Jews to their own land before the years appointed for their captivity are expired. In the midst of the years, show compassion. In wrath, remember mercy. So this commentary is tying this specifically to Judah going into captivity, which may be exactly the immediate situation that Habakkuk had in mind. But also this talks about the time of the end. So I believe that our time is also referenced. And that's not just the tribe of Judah. And Judah is not actually referenced here. What they have is in the midst of the years, revive it. Not, they don't mention Judah or Israel, as I recall reading it just there. Barnes says, O Yahuwah, I have heard with the inward ear of the heart, your speech. Rather, as English margin, your report, the report of you, i.e. what may be heard and known of Elohim. That's supposed to be. What may be heard and known of Elohim, or what he had himself heard. The word contains in one both what Elohim had lately declared to the prophet, the judgments of Elohim upon the wicked of the people, and upon those who with their own injustice done upon them the righteous judgments of Elohim, and that the work of Yahuwah would be performed in his time for those who in patience wait for it. and also still more largely what might be heard of Elohim, although as it were, but a little whisper of his greatness and of his majesty of his workings. Like that bothers me so much that we just get whispers. We get whispers. We look at a flower and esteem Yahuah. We look at a newborn baby and we esteem Yahuah. But these are whispers of his awesome greatness. And it's easy for people to ignore the whispers. That's not overwhelming, like hearing past the noise of the world, which is blaring, blasting. And was afraid, not fearful, but afraid in awe as a creature, and amazed at the surpassing wonderfulness of the work of Elohim. Well may man stand in awe at the incarnation of the only begotten Son, how earth should contain him uncontained by space, how a body was prepared for him of the Virgin by the Ruach HaKodesh, and all the works whereby he shall work the salvation of mankind, the execution stake, the death, resurrection, and ascension, uniting things opposite, a body with one incorporeal, death with life, resurrection with death, a body in heaven. All is full of wonder and awe. This is not a servile fear, but a kadosh fear, which endures forever, not one which love casts out, but which it brings in, wherein messengers praise, dominions adore, powers stand in awe at the majesty of the eternal Elohim. That's what we just long for, is to see that declaration and that knowing, everybody knowing the majesty of Yahuah. O Yahuah, revive your work. Elohim's word seems often, as it were, dead and come utterly to an end forevermore. Psalm 17, verse 8. While it is holding on its own course, as all nature seems dead for a while, but all is laid up in store and ready to shoot forth as by a sort of resurrection. This quote, the prophet prophesying praise that it should come quickly, and praise prophesying that it shall so come. And that's what we pray for, that it would come quickly. All Elohim's dealings with his people, his assembly, each single soul are part of a one great work, perfect in itself, esteem and majesty, all which the righteous meditate on, which those busied with their own plans do not look to. It is manifested in great doings for them or with them, as in the Exodus, the psalmist says, we have heard with our ears, yea, our fathers have told us what work you did in their days, in the times of old. They proved me and saw my work. This is what we long for, to see his work and to see righteousness prevail, and just the only thing. We want evil to be destroyed. They proved me and saw my work. With it, he makes his own glad. After it has been withdrawn for a while, he shows it to his servants. It issues in judgments on the unrighteous, which people consider and declare. The great work of Elohim on earth, which includes all his works and is the end of all, is the salvation of man through Yahushua HaMashiach. This great work seemed, as it were, asleep or dead as trees in winter, all through those 4,000 years, which gave no token of his coming. Included in this great work is the special work of the hand of Elohim, of which alone it is said, Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Whoa. And we are the clay, and you are our potter, and we are all the work of your hands. And your hands have made me and fashioned me together round about. Man, whom being dead as to the life of the soul through the malice of Satan, Mashiach revived by dying and rising again. He was dead in trespasses and sins, and like a carcass putrefying in them. And this whole world one great charnel house through man's manifold corruptions, when Mashiach came to awaken the dead, and they who heard lived. They who heard lived. Again, the center of this work, the special work of Elohim, that wherein he made all things new, is the human body of our Adon, our master, the temple which was destroyed by death, and within 3 days was raised up. The answer to Habakkuk's inquiry, how long, had two sides. It had given assurance as to the end. The trial time would not be prolonged for one moment longer than the council of Elohim had foredetermined. The relief would come. It would not be behindhand. But meantime, there was no comfort to be given, for Elohim knew that deepening sin was drawing on deepening chastisement. But in that he was silent as to the intervening time and pointed to patient expectation of a lingering future as their only comfort. Patient expectation of a lingering future as their only comfort. He implies that the immediate future was heavy. We talked about that word heavy too, burden. That was the first word. That was the first word in the whole book. Habakkuk then renews his prayer for the years which had to intervene and to pass away. In the midst of the years before that time appointed, when his promise should have its full fulfillment, before those years should come to their close, he prays, revive your work. The years include all the long period of waiting for our Adon's first coming before he came in the flesh, and now for his second coming and the restitution of all things, the restoration of all things. In this long period, at times Elohim seems to be absent. And when our Adon was asleep in the boat, while the tempest was raging, at times he bids the storm to cease, and there is a great calm. This is in those long intervals when Elohim seems to be absent, and to leave all things to time and chance, and love waxes cold, and favors seem rare, is the prayer of Habakkuk, of prophets and psalmists of the assembly. Return, we beseech you, O Yahuah Zabaoth. Look down from heaven, behold and visit this vine. What a beautiful prayer. O Elohim, why have you cast us off forever? Why withdraw your hand? Why your right hand? For Elohim is my sovereign of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. So that's his work. He's working salvation in the midst of the earth. Awake, awake, put on strength, you arm of Yahuah. Awake as in the ancient days, in the generations of old. This is from Isaiah 51, 9-10. Are you not it with which did smite Rahab, didst wound the dragon? Are you not it which did dry the sea, the waters of the great deep? He's talking to the arm of Yahuah, which did make the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over? A way for the ransom to pass over. This is a play on words too, because this should be the word Hebrew, to pass over. Stir up your might and come, save us, renew our days as of old. Lamentations 5:21. So our Adon taught his assembly to pray continually. Whenever she prayed, thy kingdom come, longing not for his final coming only, but for the increase of his esteem and the greater dominion of his favor and his enthronement in the hearts of people, even before its complete and final coming. In the midst of the years, revive your work is the assembly's continual cry. In the midst of the years, make known. Literally, you will make known. In wrath, you will remember mercy. And so, as we use the word wilt, the prophet at once foretells, expresses his belief and praise. Elohim has made known his work and his power in the days of old. In times of trouble, he seems like an Elohim who hides himself. Now he prays him to shine forth and help. Make known your work before you fulfill it. To revive the drooping hopes of man, and that all may see that your word is truth. Make yourself known in your work, that when the time comes to Daniel 9:24, make an end of sin by the death of your son, your awful, that means like most magnificent kadoshness, and the love wherewith you have, John 3:16, so love the world, may be the more known and adored. And wrath you will remember mercy. So David prayed Psalm 25:6, remember your tender mercies and your loving kindnesses, for they are from of old. This is just something we don't hear from people. his tender mercies, his loving kindnesses, they are from of old, You will remember that counsel for man's redemption, which has been from the foundation of the world. For we seem in our own minds to be forgotten of Elohim when he delays to help us. Elohim remembers mercy. In anger, that in this life he never chastens without purposes of mercy, and his mercy ever softens his judgments. His promise of mercy that the seed of the woman shall bruise the serpent's head went before the sentence of displeasure. You are dust you are, and unto dust shall you return. Jerome said, he reveals his wrath that he may scare us from sin and so may not inflict it. And when at last he inflicts it, he has mercy on the remnant who flee to his mercy, that we be not like Sodom and Gomorrah. I think it was Teza that was bringing up yesterday, perhaps, or when we had class on Thursday, that there was really only the four. There was only the four to be saved, though Abraham had prayed even up to 10 righteous ones, will you spare the city? But there were only four that Yahuah saved or attempted to save. One of them turned to salt. The other three were saved. Romans 5:8, while we were yet sinners and Elohim was angry, Mashiach died for us. And Titus 3:5, he saved us not for works which we had done, but out of his great mercy, and took away sin and restored us to life and interruption. I don't really know what this means, and restored us to life and interruption. I don't know if maybe that is a typo of some sort, misspelled word. Elohim had already promised by Micah, according to the days of your coming out of the land of Egypt, I will show him marvelous things. So just like it was, he showed marvelous things. That's kind of like I think about the second Exodus, called the Greater Gathering in the scriptures, not an Exodus, but a greater gathering. I believe we're going to see the return of these plagues. That has to be a greater gathering. That means not because we've saved ourselves, but because he has saved us. He has said, let my people go from the countries where we have lived. Isaiah had often used the great events of that deliverance as the symbols of the future. So now Habakkuk, in one vast panorama, as it were, without distinction of time or series of events, exhibits the future in pictures of the past. Okay, so he's saying Habakkuk uses these pictures from the past. In the description itself, which follows, he now speaks in the past, now in the future, of which times the future might be a vivid present and the past a prophetic past. As a key to the whole, he says, Elohim shall come, indicating that all which follows, however spoken, was a part of that future. In no other way was it an answer to that prayer, revive your work. To foretell future deliverances in plain words had been a comfort. It would have compromised a continuance of that work. The unity and revival of the work is expressed in that the past is made, as it was, the image of the future. I mean, that's just so beautiful for those of us who study the word. And we're told, even society tells you that to study the past so that you don't make the same mistakes in the future. So you know what's going to happen in the future. You study the past. That future was to be wondrous, superhuman. Elsewhere, the past miracles had been no image of it. It was to be no mere repetition of the future. And to mark this, the images are exhibited out of their historical order. All right. Oops, let me go back one more. There we go. So I think I have a note on this team on here. Team on verse 3, south or south wind, literally that which is on the right side. If one faces the east, the south is on the right side. Arabic is Yemen, literally the country of the south, the happy country, the south. Okay, that's the only note I had on that. Is Bonnie still with us? No, she's not. So verse 5, before him goes pestilence, and a burning flame goes forth at his feet. This word pestilence also means plague. 3:5. Before him went pestilence. And here's that word I told you guys. This is the word we have for the same spelling for a word, matter, thing. It's also plague. I'll show you. Debar, speech, word, language, the same words. Interesting here, it's the plagues because of Sarah. I think this is a mistake. This would be the word for plagues here, as opposed to because of. Here it's these things of the word, after these things, the word. And I believe it's the word as opposed to thing, but it could be things as well, or thing, word, matter, thing. Such a thing, here it is, such a thing, to slay, or after this manner. So that's one meaning when you put these three letters together, debar, and then we have deber, which is pestilence, and plague. Plague, pestilence, murrain. So from devar in the sense of destroying. Well, that's interesting. Something about debar is destroying. A pestilence, murrain, plague. Where did we see destroying in here? We've got speak and word and destroy. So down here in the for primitive root. Answer, appoint, bid, command, commune, declare, destroy, give. Primitive root, perhaps properly to arrange, but used figuratively of words, arranging words. To speak, rarely in a destructive sense, but it's rarely in a destructive sense, to subdue. Okay. Rarely it means to subdue. Answer, appoint, bid, command, commune, declare, destroy, give, name, promise, pronounce, rehearse, say, speak, be spokesman, subdue, talk, teach, tell, think, use, entreaties, utter, and a work. This reminds me of the story of Mashiach, where he talked about the demon controlled people coming in and trying to speak his name to try to get some sort of power over him, besides exposing him. I read somewhere that is what people would speak somebody's name to have a control over them. You guys heard that before?
No, but that's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's just the opposite. If we call on his name, he has control over us. We call on his name, his will.
We're binding ourselves, like Tessa says, bind ourselves to him. When we call on his name, we're binding ourselves to him. And he wants us to call on his name. But in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, Yahushua did not want these demons calling out his name. So he would silence them.
Yet he wanted to know their name. You know, what is your name?
Yes.
My name is Legion.
About it. There's something about we've seen in the past in Christianity, deliverance ministries, they will ask for demons' names so they can call that specific thing out. And yeah, they had to answer Yahushua. And we've got the example of the guy who said the demon who said his name is Legion, for we are many.
Yeah, but there were no demons that said I mean, the only reference that I remember they made is we know who you are. Didn't they follow that up with something you are they followed up with you have it's not the appointed time, but they never said his name. Did they say that you're the son? We know who you are, you're the son.
Yeah, they identified him anyway. They definitely identified him.
But not by his Hebrew name.
But trying to have power over who he was
Mhm.
would be a sense of what this verse is talking about, this word. And then, of course, this is the one that we're told it means. Now, there are none of these vowel points in the original scriptures. This is what came from the Masoretes. The Masoretic text gave us these vowel points. So there's no difference in the original scripture between debar and deber in the sense that it's just a matter of context. But this particular one is defined as pestilence, plague. I don't know what murrain is. I guess we could go look. I don't think I've ever heard that word. It's just a word that just dropped out of our usage of it. Webster's. Let's see if Webster's knew about it. I'll bet he does. Oh, I could be wrong. Here we go. Let's try this one. An infectious and fatal disease among cattle. Okay. It's a specific disease, an infection among cattle. It is very,
Well, they had that in Egypt, all the cattle.
yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But that was talking about Exodus 9:3 in that.
I'm on the wrong page here. Here we go.
And when you were talking about names and whatnot, remember when it is written that when Yeshua called forth Lazarus by name, he spoke to the little girl by her name to raise them, because if he was to just call them, everyone would have raised, but he called them by name. And I think that's so powerful.
That's so powerful. I have heard before that that when a mother names a child, that she's given influence from the Ruach as to the naming of that child. Have y'all ever heard that?
I believe that. I really do believe that.
I believe that.
Yeah, you just decide. Like I remember I didn't want to name my son Daniel. I don't know. I just thought it was old fashioned and I don't know, but turns out that's a good name for him. Yeah, I believe that too. Like we get a little whisper as mamas in our ear about that's such a big thing. What am I going to name my baby? You know, you ponder on that.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think people spend a lot of time thinking about their baby's name. They may not spend much time in the word of Yahuah, but they will spend a lot of time thinking about that baby's name.
I did that with my last one. I was going to call him Benjamin, but I turned around and called him Nathaniel, or Nathan. He gets called Nate now. So, and he was a barakah for me.
Yeah.
It does seem
And
like names, the Hebrew meanings of names do fit the person. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Y'all agree with that? You do agree with that?
I do. I do agree with that, Terri.
Yeah.
Well, that can't be just random. That has to be the father impressing that on the mother's heart. You know, that just can't, that's got to be true.
We have to regard also, give huge esteem to Yahuah for the fact that He has decided how every human enters into this world, and it is through the portal of the woman's womb. That's how all human life comes to this earth. They must come through the doorway of a woman's body to this earth. Before him went the pestilence. This says better is before him shall go the plague and burning.
Darla,
Yes.
I'm sorry. What you were saying about how humans have to come in to the portal. What do you think these things are that they're developing in these labs, you know, that aren't going to come through a woman's womb? That's really scary.
Yep.
They're not going to be humans.
That's true. Lab babies. And I don't know where I don't know how that soul gets developed, because Yahuah's word says that he knits us together in our mother's womb. That's what he
Yeah,
does.
and well, like the fallen angels and women and their offspring, they had souls that weren't meant to be, and that's why they couldn't die. That's why they couldn't. They're just wandering and suffering, and yeah, because they just weren't meant to be.
Right, right. There's a lot of what's not meant to be right now on this earth.
I mean, that's demons. That's the definition of a demon.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
You know, I've often thought how weird this was, but it's like the birthday party for the demons was the flood. You know, they all had to come out of the flesh. The flesh died. You
Right.
know, so that's like, it seems like the
The
demon
birthday, yeah.
birthday of the demons.
Yeah.
Maybe why they
True, yeah.
anyway.
Well, I thought this was interesting. This is the verse that I was actually brought to yesterday. Before him shall go the plague, and burning pestilence shall go forth where he sets his feet. Like, trying not to say anything we're not supposed to say. Just take that verse. That's obviously this commentator's understanding of the better translation. Before him shall go the plague. Before his return, the plague goes forth. That's profound. And burning pestilence, that word is also fever. I looked it up.
The name of that plague too kind of correlates with that first horse, that white horse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's been
So
given a crown. That was given a crown. Yeah.
So you looked at burning pestilence, and that was fever.
Yes, this word is let's just look at it. I think that this is this guy's translation, but in here, let me see where I'm at on 5. It says a burning flame. So he's saying it's better before him went the pestilence. Yeah, so before him shall go the plague or the pestilence. He's saying it's better before him shall go the plague as opposed to pestilence, and burning pestilence. Yeah, so it is pestilence, a burning flame. This word here turns out to be a burning flame or fever. Shall go forth where he sets his feet. So like a fever is left, or a burning flame. That could be a fire.
It reminds me of the Hebrews coming out of Egypt.
Yeah. So it says here, Kleiner remarks that it was with these messengers of death that Yahuah revealed himself in the south and destroyed the armies of Sennacherib in 2 Kings 19:35. Let's see, I think I've already read Matthew's commentary. Barnes notes, before him went the pestilence, or goes the pestilence, then to consume his enemies. I will send my fear before you and will destroy all the people to whom you shall come. And the lightnings are a token that they which hate him flee before him, and the wicked perish at the presence of Elohim. I can so imagine that. So on his ascension, Herod and Pilate were smitten by him, and Elymas and Simon Magus before his apostles, and whatsoever has lifted itself up against him has perished, and anti-Mashiach shall perish at the breath of his mouth, and all the unrighteous on the day of judgment. And burning coals, rather as English, burning fever. Okay, yep, there's the fever. This is saying burning coals. Holy Scriptures has burning fire. This is burning fever. B'nai Reshef, burning coals is from Kimchi. Tanchum gives as different opinions, sparks or arrows or pestilence, but the meaning sparks, arrows are ascribed only to the plural. The central meaning is probably burning heat. Burning heat. Went forth at his feet, i.e. followed him. Messengers of death went as it were before him. So they're equating it to messengers of death go before him as the front of his army, and the rear thereof was other forms of death. Death and destruction of all sorts are a great army at his command, going before him as heralds of his coming. So death goes as a herald of his coming, such as are judgments in this world. The judgments in this world are that type. Or attendance upon him at the judgment when he appears in his kingdom. When Matthew 13:51, Matthew 13:42, they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. So Jameson Fawcett Brown says the pestilence is to destroy his people's foes. Wow. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total
When
sense.
you look at it in the interlinear, at his feet, and you go down back to Ragal, to go forth on foot, but it's also got slander, slandered, spies, spy, or taught to walk.
Spies are taught to walk.
Yeah. Spy, as in I'm spying on you, I spy.
Yeah.
And then it's got taught to walk on one occurrence. But I found it interesting that it was slander, it's used once. Slandered is used another time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Strong 7. Yeah.
Strong's what?
That's strong 7270.
7:2:17. And this is Rigel per foot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll go look at that when we're done with the commentary. That's right here in this this reference to foot in this verse.
And it's got backbite, slander.
Wow.
Oh. Wow.
Meaning those who slander his people. Is that what I missed the connection?
That's even anyone slandering. What diseases come on those that are slander? What happened to Miriam?
Slandering.
Leprosy.
It's leprosy, yeah.
Leprosy. I did that code table on leprosy, which seemed to be a umbrella term for pestilence or plague.
Definitely, Terri.
Which we have a new one. I don't know if we can talk about it or not, but we have a new one coming up.
Can we spell it or no?
I could put it in the chat, but it has to do with the spore, spore, and you can't destroy a spore. Even a fire won't destroy a spore. A spore is almost indestructible. I can't think. I mean, that's what I just learned in nursing school, but it has to do with what grows from a spore. You can think of mildew, which the other word for, that goes with mildew. That is becoming a humongous deal. Really, I've been watching it, and it's just, you're hearing a lot about that, and That you can't, my husband was an ENT doctor, and when somebody would have that in their ear, you can't get rid of it. There's no medicine. There's nothing you can do about it. It's it's just in you. You know, you hear about how hard it is to, what do they call it? Not eradicate, remediate a place. Anyway, this is a new pestilence. It's not new, but it's becoming very, I'm reading a lot about it in nursing literature.
Well, by the way, I was talking to you about that,
With all the
and that's in the.
Sorry?
Sorry, I
I'm
had
just saying with all the rain that was around
Right?
has caused so much of it.
Yep. Yes. And you know, there's all different kinds. But
Yes.
I just remember him, the ear has so much in it. It's reflective of your body, what comes out of your ear. And I can remember him pulling that out, and it's like a fungus, it's a fungus. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. It's just two words that describe it, but you can't get rid of it. It just lies dormant. It's a spore. It'll come back from the spore.
You're talking about in the human body or on surfaces?
I'm talking about in the
in
soil.
general?
In the soil, I
Okay.
don't know if it's in the human body. I think of it as a parasite if it was in the body, which it has to be, or you wouldn't get the result of it. You wouldn't get the growth of it. I think if the conditions are suitable, like if the blood is very acidic or lots of sugar is just fertilizer for it. So yeah, moist, dark places. But anyway, it's just becoming an issue. I mean, it's always been an issue, but
That's what Candida is part of that too.
yeah, it is. And it makes me wonder about the leaven. Leaven is compared to sin, but yet, you have unleavened bread, but then you have leavened bread.
Oh, that's deep, Terry. That's
Yeah,
very deep.
I know, leaven as sin. So, there's got to be a correlation there.
There's also a parable that talks about leaven in terms of the increasing of the kingdom. So it's not always.
Yeah, because you if you have unleavened bread, that means you have leavened bread. I don't know if did they eat leavened bread? I don't remember ever. It's always a flat bread.
Oh, there's only 1 week. No, they did eat leavened bread because they had the 1 week of the year that they don't eat it.
Right, unleavened, but I guess, oh yeah, because it says who's puffed up, puffed up. They compare that to a sinful being puffed up. So that would be from the leavening, which is a yeast, which a yeast is a fungus, is a mold. That's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's compared to sin because you can't get rid of it once it's in your body. And then and the spores, yeah, they're in the ground, they're everywhere. I consider them a parasite in the body or in the soil or wherever they are. They're a parasite. They're waiting for not a victim, that's not the right word. They're waiting for a host. They're waiting for a host. Right. So that's kind of like us. If we allow, if we don't have our armor on, we're vulnerable for fiery darts,
Yeah, I think this is actually a really great note here, that to regard that pestilence destroys his people's foes. And sometimes I was telling my daughter about this as we were watching her video game she wanted to share with me. And I said, I think one of the things that I find the roughest is that you cannot, you can't tell what a person's motives are. They can hide them completely, what they're thinking, what they're all about, what their agenda is. You can't just take somebody for face value. Like in this storyline, man's got to get a young girl. There's one young girl that she's gotten bitten, but she doesn't die or turn into a zombie like everybody else. So she's like immune. And so whoever the powers that be are, they want to utilize her to make something that could then be consumed or injected into others to help them to become immune, right? I'm not going to use the word, but we all know what that word is. So the man that's in the story, he's got to get her to where she's got to go to a lab. And at some point he meets up with his brother, and he wants his brother to take her. And the girl has gotten attached to him, and she thought they were a team. It's just been the two of them against the whole world. And yet he's ready to hand her off. And she just kind of runs away. I mean, eventually the guy decides he's going to take her on. And that's where we're at in the story at this point. But I was telling my daughter, I said, that is I think that's the roughest part, is that you can be with someone or around someone and you think that they're about one thing, but they really got a whole other agenda going on. And when it's exposed what's really in their heart, it was hard for the little girl. She's 14 in the story. It's hard for her to realize that this one person, all other people in her life have died or left her in some way, probably death, have left her. And she's stuck with this one guy, and they've developed a bond, but yet he's handing her off.
What story are you talking about, Darla? I came in late, so I probably missed it.
Yeah, my daughter's asked me to watch this video game with her. Like, there's a YouTube video where a really great player is playing this video game, and it takes him like 10 hours to get through it. So we were watching it over several nights together. And it's like apocalyptic, it's zombie land. It's called The Last of Us, and I think they made a TV show out of it or something, a series maybe. But the video game is a little, that's what the TV show was made from, the video game. And the video game is a little bit more, less offensive to those of us that might otherwise be offended by some things.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I'm watching this with her, and I think it's interesting because the young people,
Finding lots of lessons in there.
yeah, there's so many with what's really happening, Sherry. What's really happening is going on in this video, like maybe 5 years from right now.
Yep, that's what it sounds like. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm obviously watching this going, oh, I see how this is going down. And I just think it's interesting that young people can receive it in that form, but not the reality.
I believe the enemy has to put his plan out there, because Yahuah doesn't do anything without revealing to his prophets. And I think the enemy is required to do the same thing.
Yeah, the way I'm sort of experiencing it is that we can handle the truth. There are others who cannot, but they can see it through this way because fiction allows them a certain level of safety, because their soul is not ready for what our Ruach Kot have been prepared for.
Right. So but it's also letting us know what's coming.
Exactly. It's like, well, obviously they're getting the same message, Sherry, but they can't handle it in the real form. So it's like,
it's fiction to them. Yeah, it's just fiction to them.
Exactly. It's fiction, but they realize it could happen, and they're able, because these are believer children I have here, they're able to see the nuances, that curtain between what's real and what they're being told is fiction is,
oh wow, yeah,
very, very fluid and secret.
So Darla, do you believe that that's those will perish through lack of knowledge, of knowing that sort of thing?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase that or say it one more time?
Do you think
Yeah,
that the words that are written, they perish for lack of knowledge, could also relate to knowing what is written about what you're watching?
I think that what I see in, I'm not sure I'm answering your question at all, but I'm going to answer what I feel like I'm supposed to say. I think
Yeah,
that
sorry.
I'm just saying, sometimes I don't know how it's coming out, but I feel like it's coming out anyway. I think what I see in the word and what I discern in my ruach is what is being delivered in a video game setup, so that my children that have heard the word, they can see there is a fluidity between their game. Their hearts are still young and tender. They do not want to accept what I'm saying is going to happen, which I've been saying since 2011 and it hasn't happened yet, kind of thing. So they're out there, in some ways they're more able to receive it in a fiction form. And it is, I believe it is, they're at a more tender age than I am, for instance, by far. I believe they're able to receive it in that form, just like our children can, a 2-year-old can see something more in a cartoon form than they can watching the nightly news, for instance. That may be a very horrible example, but they're able to somehow take in the same information, and whatever scripture they have that is brought forth, I believe is confirming this is actually going to happen. It is happening. It's going to happen. You're just a few years before it starts, it amps up to this level because it's a horrible level. Yeah, I think that I like this commentary a lot. Pestilence is to destroy Yahuah's people's foes.
I'm trying to think of the verse that says, when you see these things, is that you come off your rooftop, or when you see these things. So he's telling us that we need to study prophecy. I mean, obviously we need to study it. It's in scripture. So if you know it's like you said, Darla, if you know what's happened in the past, you can anticipate and see that it's a pattern. And this is probably what's going to happen. I need to prepare for this, and when you're looking to the heavens, because he said, I'm going to show you, there's going to be signs. So if you're not knowledgeable, my people perish for lack of knowledge. If you're not knowledgeable about that creates, it's going to probably be fearful anyway, but these things that are happening in the heavens, we know they're going to happen. We know that because we're knowledgeable about that. We've read prophecy. We know that things will happen. So
yeah, we know we're going all the way to Revelation 22.
Yeah, we're going to go all the way. So, and he gives us,
willing.
He doesn't want his children to be fearful. So, he tells us, look up. These are the signs. Watch for this. Don't be afraid. Do not be of good courage. Do not be afraid. These things are going to happen. But
instead of being afraid, we should be excited, really.
Yeah. Well, I just read something in this commentary that said it's almost the difference between somebody who, you're ready when you want him to come. When you're like, please come. And your heart is so simple. It's really, are you ready for him to come? Do you want him to come? Or are you like, no, I don't? 'Cause there was a time in my life when I didn't want him to come. I'm like, I'm having fun.
Same here. Me too.
I don't want you to come.
Yeah, I'm ready. Oh, I'm ready.
And now, I'm
there's
ready.
so many I love that aren't ready. And that's the only thing that bothers me.
Yeah. So that's the peace
me. I'm like, now.
The peace that passes.
Isaiah 66 turns around and says, rejoice in your heart when you see these things are coming.
Yeah. So we can rejoice because we know the word, we know the pattern, we know his signs. We're watching, we're watching in
And we can rejoice,
anticipation.
but
Yes.
also there's a sadness for the others that we love that aren't there yet. It's like, oh, please hurry, but before you hurry, make these guys believe. I don't
Yeah.
know how else you could explain it.
Well, maybe, when they see these things happening, they're going to be fearful. Like, the last biggie that we had.
That's the
were
whole
like
point of the tribulation, I believe.
I read a
It's-
statistic the other day in another nursing journal that said the last lock, that we had, that affected 31% of people's mental health, 31% of people, and it was a credible study, the number that they had in it, 31% of the people who answered this question felt like their mental health had been altered in a bad way. And that it also interesting is 61% in this study would define their lives as very lonely. 61%.
It has affected 31% of the population, you're saying?
Well, that's their answer. 31% is saying that their mental health has been affected by this last 3 years, 2 years. Is that fear? Is part of that fear? I think it is. Fearful, being fear. If you're not, that's a piece that passes all understanding. It comes down to, are you afraid to die? I remember saying that to people. They're like, are you going to get it? And I'm like, no. Why not? And I'm like, I'm just not that afraid to die. If I get it, I get it. Right.
Yeah.
So, are you
Love your own life to
ready?
Amen, Terry. That's right.
I think that says it all. Do you want him to come? Are you ready? Do you want him to come? Are you excited about him coming? Or are you like, no,
I'm excited.
I think you know that on a very deep level. I think everybody knows
Yeah.
that.
I'm looking forward to Yahuah making himself known to the people. I'd say that is the big takeaway that's not in that video game that my daughter wants me to watch with her. There is no Yahuah in there. It's just nothing but onslaught and survival from day to day by killing, survive by killing. There's no Yahuah, there's no hope, there's no esteem, there's no Elohim is going to save us.
That's
Well,
sad.
So is that like in the days of Noah?
Well, yeah, like in the days of the Hebrews. I mean, it was very obvious who was a Hebrew. They didn't get the plagues and pestilences. They didn't fall on them. Their firstborn didn't die. Their cattle didn't die. It was very obvious.
But
Exactly.
Kaylin's blessed that she's got you to explain to her, these
Right.
things, that there is hope. There is hope. They're not showing it, but there's hope.
Exactly. That's why it's great for me to be watching it with her because
Yes.
I have time to think about it between now and, the next time I watch it with her. What is Yahuah showing me? That's, that's a big deal to me that he's showing me he's not in their understanding of what is coming. They have an understanding of what's coming and they feel safe about it because it's fiction, but it's not fiction. And the part that is coming, but the big piece they're missing is the Redeemer who is rescuing us. They don't have that part. They don't have the whole Exodus part 2. That's not part of it.
Well, she has it from you, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly. And she gets it. That I believe you.
We're all going to be watching this. I'm going to look this up, watch it now.
Yeah. Well, I'll send you a link to the one that I am watching soon because there's a bunch of them. Probably every player could put their own version up. And I just have to scroll through the desk because I'm not into it.
Yeah, send it to me. I would love to see what you're talking about. I would love to see.
It's just watching somebody play and then that's their existence. They have every day. I mean, how awful an existence. We don't have existence because Yahuah redeems his people. And he's
Yeah.
destroying, back to the scripture here, the pestilence, it says, is to destroy his people's foes. And I want to see what that says. 1 Samuel 5, 9 and 11. I'm going to go over there real quick. 1 Samuel 5. I'm just going to read it out.
Yeah, definitely send me a link. Send me the link because I would love to see what it is.
All right, 1 Samuel 5, 9 and 11 says, and it came to be after they removed it that the hand of Yahuah was against the city with a very great destruction, and he smote the men of the city from the least to the greatest, and tumors broke out on them. And they sent and gathered together all the princes of the Pelishtites, the Philistines, and said, send away the ark of the Elohim of Yasharel, and let it return to its own place, so that it does not kill us and our people. For there had come a deadly destruction throughout all the city. The hand of Elohim was very heavy there. All right, so the pestilence is to destroy his people's foes. As Yahuwah's advent is esteemed to his people, so it is terrible to his foes. Okay, so just depends on what side you fall on with Yahuah. Burning coals, Psalm 18 verse 8 favors English version, but the parallelism requires, as the margin translates, burning disease. Burning disease. And that says compare Deuteronomy 32, 24. I'll look at that real quick. Deuteronomy 32, 24. Wasted by scarcity of food and consumed by heat and bitter destruction, and the teeth of beasts I send upon them with the poison of serpents of the dust. Verse 22 says, for a fire was kindled in my wrath and burns to the bottom of Sheol and consumes the earth and its increase and lights on fire the foundations of mountains. I gather evils upon them. I use up my arrows upon them. In verse 24 again, wasted by scarcity of food and consumed by heat and bitter destruction, and the teeth of beast I send upon them with the poison of serpents of the dust. All right. So Yahuwah's wrath.
It's interesting, serpents of the dust, because they were cursed to eat dust. Crawl on their belly and eat dust. Burning disease. Is this where you said fever before?
Yeah.
Look it up. Yeah, fever, all disease is inflammation. You know, everything, anything is an inflammation. And anytime you have inflammation, it increases your body's temperature. So that would include any kind of disease.
And then it says went at his feet. So the burning disease went at his feet. That is after him as his attendants. I wonder if that is a hot link. It is not. So it went as his attendants. So these things come before and after him. I think it's pretty interesting. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Boy. I don't even know how to get back out of here. What button did I hit? All right, let me just go back this way. Habakkuk. Here we go. So we're just here. Before him goes pestilence, and a burning flame goes forth at his feet. It says, he shall stand and measure the earth. He shall look and shake the nations, and the ancient mountains are shattered. The age-old hills shall bow. His ways are everlasting. Tents are under sorrow. Curtains of the land tremble. Shall Yahuah burn against the rivers? Is your displeasure against the rivers? Is your wrath against the sea, that you ride on your horses, your chariots of deliverance?
Could you expound on that? I was having trouble with the rivers. I mean, what's with the rivers and the sea? Rivers in there twice.
Let's get rid of this guy. Is it with the rivers Yahuah is wroth? Is your anger against the rivers? Is your wrath against
Yeah.
the sea?
What does that mean?
Let's see. The horses and chariot. Let's see. The allusion is obviously to Israel's miraculous passage through the Red Sea, Jordan. The horses and chariots, which are here the symbols of divine might, come in the more fittingly in view of Exodus 14, where Pharaoh pursued with horses and chariots, only to find Yahuah himself arrayed against him. So Benson says, after the description of Yahuah given in the preceding verses, the first of his wonderful works recounted by the prophet is the passage through the Red Sea, where he represents the master as appearing at the head of the Israelites in his chariot of war, with his bow drawn in his hand, to rescue them from their cruel oppressors, the Egyptians, and to give them the land of Canaan, according to the oath which he sware unto them. The next is his giving them water to drink in the wilderness, where the mountains moved at his presence. The next is passage over Jordan, where the waters, testifying their ready obedience to his will, open to the right and left to make way for his people to pass through, testifying of their obedience to his will. The next is interposition at Joshua's engagement with the Amorites, when the sun and the moon stood still to give them time to discomfit their enemies. The last wonderful works which the prophet recounts were performed after this engagement, when Yahuah marched before them to execute vengeance on the Canaanites and to protect the Israelites, destroying utterly the princes of Canaan and their states at a time when they made sure of Israel for their prey, and giving his own people entire possession of their country, from the river Jordan on the east to the Mediterranean Sea on the west. Was Yahuah displeased against the rivers? Can it be imagined that when Elohim caused the Red Sea to be dry in the midst of it, and the waters of the river Jordan to stop, it was done out of displeasure against the waters? Surely not. But it was done out of Elohim's singular care of and regard for his people, for whose deliverance he appeared in as illustrious a manner as if he had been seen riding in the clouds and carried upon the wings of the wind as in a chariot. Your bow was made quite naked, or you did lay bare your bow to fight for Israel. That is, you did fight for Israel as evidently as if you had been seen with a bow in your hand, that you might fulfill the oaths and promises which you have made to give the tribes of Israel full possession of Canaan. That's right, all 12 tribes.
This is so beautiful, Darla. This is what we need to think about, everybody, you know?
Yeah. You did.
I agree.
You did cleave the earth with rivers. You did cleave the hard rocks and the earth about them, and make the waters to run down in great streams like rivers, which followed them a great part of their journey. The mountains saw you and they trembled. Mount Sinai and the hills adjoining felt the effects of your presence. The overflowing of the water passed by or hasted away, as Green renders it. At the season when the Israelites passed over Jordan, this river overflowed its banks, but as soon as the priests who bear the ark entered into it, the waters, rearing themselves upon the right hand and upon the left, parted asunder with a mighty noise, here nobly described by the deep, uttering its voice and lifting up its hands on high. Wow, that's beautiful. How poetic.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful. That's something we need to think about all the time, because he is going to deliver us. Even if we die, we're going to be delivered. I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
What do we have to be afraid of?
Yeah. Yeah, we know the plan is Revelation 22, whether we make it there or not.
Exactly. Exactly.
Matthew Henry's concise commentary. Elohim's people, when in distress and ready to despair, seek help by considering the days of old and the years of ancient times, and by pleading them with Elohim in prayer. The resemblance between Babylonish and Egyptian captivities naturally presents itself to the mind, as well as the possibility of a like deliverance through the power of Yahuah. Elohim appeared in his esteem. All the powers of nature are shaken, and the course of nature changed. but all is for the salvation of Elohim's own people. Hallelujah. Even what seems least likely shall be made to work for their salvation. Hereby is given a type and figure of the redemption of the world by Yahushua HaMashiach. It is for salvation with your anointed. Joshua, who led the armies of Israel, was a figure of him whose name he bare, even Yahushua. In all the salvations wrought for them, Elohim looked upon Mashiach the anointed and brought deliverances to pass by him. All the wonders done for Israel of old were nothing to that which was done when the Son of Elohim suffered on the execution stake for the sins of his people. How esteemed his resurrection and ascension, and how much more esteemed will be his second coming to put an end to all that oppose him and all that cause suffering to his people. Hallelujah. Great. So he's talked about cutting through the earth of the rivers. We talked about this in the commentary. The deep shall give forth its voice, a tumultuous noise to part the waters, and it shall lift up its hands, one to one side, one to the other. Sun, moon, and stars stand still in their places. I'd be interested to look at the commentary on this one. You step through the earth in rage, you thresh the Gentiles in wrath. We understand the Gentiles to be those who do not keep the everlasting covenant, the Torah, which we once were. So let's look at that. Verse 12, commentary 12. We read Matthew Henry on this. Barnes. You did march the earth in indignation. The word tread is used of very solemn manifestations of Elohim. That's interesting. Of the procession of the ark. It is denied as to the idols of his going to give to his own victory over their enemies, not the land only as of old, but the earth is the scene of his judgments, the earth which was full of his praise, which he meted out, which contained the nations whom he chastened, the whole earth. Do you thresh the heathen in anger? This is the word for Gentiles, goyim. They're heathen. They do not keep the everlasting covenant. They don't know the everlasting covenant. They don't keep it. Do you thresh the heathen in anger? Not then only, but at all times unto the end. Distress of nations and perplexity are among the shoots of the fig tree, which betoken that the everlasting. Summer is nigh at hand. Jerusalem, when it had slain the Prince of Life, Yahushua, was given over to desolation and counted like the pagan. It became the synagogue, not the assembly. And so in the destruction of Jerusalem, as it is an image of the destruction of the world, was that again fulfilled. You do march through the earth in indignation. You do thresh the heathen in anger. Jamie Fawcett Brown says march, implying Yahuwah's majestic and irresistible progress before his people. Israel would not have dared to attack the nations unless Yahuwah had gone before. And Matthew Poole says, you, our Elohim, did march as the victorious conqueror, leading still your armies in the tribes of Israel through the land of Canaan to subdue the remainders of your enemies and theirs, and to give thine Israel possession of the promised land. In indignation against them for their sins, you did thresh, break to pieces, the heathen, the nation, devoted to destruction. These were cut in pieces by the sword of Israel. Gill's exposition on the heathen and says, you did thresh the heathen in anger, or do you thresh? So they're saying, is it a statement or a question? These are the papists called heathens and Gentiles in scriptures because of the heathenish customs and practices they have introduced into the Christian religion. These are the nations.
That's interesting.
Yeah. These are the nations that will be gathered together like sheaves of grain on a floor to be threshed. And when Zion, the church of Christ, the assembly of Christ, and believers, princes will be called upon to arise and thresh them. And the master by them will do it, namely, separate his own people from them, which are like wheat, and utterly destroy them as chaff and stubble. See if there's any more about the heathen. I mean, people know if they're heathen or not, don't they? They know if they're in the word and they love the creator, or they're in the world and they love doing things their way and the world's way. That is called a heathen, and that is called a Gentile. When I was growing up, we saw, oh, there's the Jews and they have to keep the law. And then there's the Gentiles and we're the Christians. That's how I grew up. But I don't see it that way now. I see that I'm Hebrew. I'm part of the 12 tribes. Yahuah has woken me up. And we are to keep his word, his commandment. Not really seeing anything here that's stepping out at me. All right. I'll just go back. I mean, you can spend obviously hours studying the word. You shall go forth to save your people, to save your anointed. You shall smite the head from the house of the wrong by laying bare from foundation to neck, Selah. And then the house of the wrong, you shall pierce with his own arrows the head of his leaders. With his own arrows. This is a concept we see in the scriptures a lot. Our enemy has all these devices and tactics, and then they set snares and it comes back on to catch himself.
Oh, Haman. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is a scriptural principle. And they do things in secret.
Well, as it says in Psalms, that the evil does slay the wrong, and those who hate righteous are guilty. So the evil are going to slay the evil anyway.
That's right. This is interesting. I heard in my body tremble, my lips quivered at the sound, rottenness came into my bones, and I trembled within myself, that I might rest for the day of distress to come upon the people who would attack us. Let's look at that one. Habakkuk now reverts abruptly to the divine sentence of Habakkuk 1 verse 5, which says, behold you among the heathen, and regard and wonder marvelously, for I will work a work in your days which you will not believe, though it be told you. So he now reverts to this sentence and describes with what emotion he meditates on the coming disasters and on his own inability to prevent them. His anxiety is, however, swept aside by a joyful and overpowering confidence in Elohim. These verses are a kind of appendix to the preceding poem, that I might rest better, that I should be resting quiet in the day of trouble, when he comes up against the people who is to oppress them.
Now that's the peace that passes all understanding right there.
Absolutely. Benson says, when I heard, my belly trembled, the prophet having recounted for the present encouragement of the trustworthy the wonderful works which Elohim had formerly wrought for his people, here returns again to his first subjects, namely the revelation which he had received from Elohim concerning the calamities which should be brought on the Jewish people by the Chaldeans. My belly trembled, my lips quivered, a consternation and shaking seized me, and I could not speak for grief and astonishment at being informed what great miseries were coming upon my nation. Rottenness entered into my bones. I could no more stand than a person whose bones are rendered rotten by disease. That's interesting. That I might rest in the day of trouble. These words are interpreted in different ways. Some suppose that the prophet here expresses a desire of being gathered to his fathers in peace before the sovereign of Babylon should invade Judea and carry the people away captive, and that he adds, as a reason of his prayer, a description of the desolation which should then come upon the land. In this sense, the clause is understood by Mr. Green, who therefore interprets it, oh, that I might be at rest before the day of distress, when the invader shall come up against the people with his troops, so that he's died before this happens. But Noldius, whose interpretation is approved by Loth, reads, yet I shall rest in the day of trouble, when he shall come up against the people, even he who shall invade them with his troops. The prophet may be considered as speaking in the person of every truly pious Jew. I shall rest secure under the divine protection when the Chaldeans shall come invade Judea. This sense of the clause accords well, perhaps better than any other, with the following verses in which we have a plain and noble description of the confidence we ought to have in Elohim in the most trying times and when involved in the greatest calamities. Have to trust Yahuah has this plan and he has it worked out. He knows exactly how it's going to go down. Though the fig tree does not blossom and there is no fruit on the vine, the yield of the olive is failed and the fields brought forth no food. The flock has been cut off from the fold and there is no herd in the stalls. Yet I exult in Yahuah. I rejoice in the Elohim of my deliverance. Yahuah is the master of my strength, and he makes my feet like those of deer and makes me walk on my high places. To the chief singer with, so it's so interesting that we were talking earlier about the wicked man who is making his own high places to try to avoid the consequences of evil. And then here Yahuah says he makes my feet like those of deer and makes me walk on my high places.
Isn't that in Psalms?
It may be.
I think it is.
Yes, it is, Terry.
That's interesting because this is a song. And what did David do? You know, he wrote songs and played songs. So I bet he sang and played this song.
That's beautiful. I like this too because of us having the parable of the fig tree from Yahushua. It's like, if you're just still waiting, yet exult in Yahuah. I rejoice in the Elohim of my deliverance.
It's a Job-like feeling in this.
And all these prophets, I believe, what verse was that? I want to look at. 18. All of these prophets, I believe, they were grieved for what they saw coming because of the people's lack of repentance. And yet, this is the first time I've seen this translated, and yet this Ani. In Yahuah will I rejoice. I will joy in Elohim. Here we go, of my salvation. This is almost the same letters of Yeshua. But that's the root word anyway of Yeshua, salvation. Yasha. deliverance, rescue, salvation, safety, welfare. Or Yeshai from Yasha, liberty, deliverance, prosperity, safety, salvation, saving. So that's a beautiful verse. And yet in Yahuwah I will rejoice. Enjoy my, I've got to see how it is in the, there we go. Read it here. In Yahuwah I rejoice in the Elohim of my deliverance. Are we thankful to have an Elohim of our deliverance?
Yes.
Yahuwah the Master is my strength, and he makes my feet like those of deer and makes me walk on my high places. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Beautiful study.
It is a beautiful study. I think it's a great place to end unless anybody has anything else.
No, it was wonderful. This is absolutely beautiful. And so timely for what's going on this earth.
Absolutely.
And to end like that, if there's no figs, if there's no grapes, if there's no olives,
Exactly.
I've got you. Fig tree doesn't blossom, and then it started out, it said, if it seems like it's slow to come,
Yeah.
it's going to come. Be patient.
Yeah.
It's going to come. Was that in here today?
Like a thief in the night.
Yeah, but was that in here today? If it yeah. 2 verse 3. If it lingers, wait for it, for it shall certainly come. It shall not delay.
Yeah.
So that's our redemption. Wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this delay is his plan. It's like, come, Yeshua, come. But it's in his plan.
And just take
So
in
the fullness,
take in the truth here. This verse I've got highlighted.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do to stop that from happening. It's what comes. It's what comes before him.
Yeah.
For that great deliverance, there's going to be, what was it? The pestilence comes to get rid of the enemies of his people.
Right. So it's another, he's going to give us protection.
Be his people. Absolutely. Be
We're his children. He's our father. He's our salvation. He's everything.
If anybody would hear this who hasn't turned to Yahuwah and doesn't want to turn to him, sometimes you don't want what you need to want. You want life to keep going on and for you to have your plans addressed and your needs and your desires, I'll say your desires met in your time, in your way. But if you're at odds at all with Yahuwah and his way and what his plan is going to go down the way he has planned it, we're to pray for his will to be done on this earth as it is in heaven, and not for our will to be done on earth. That's a selfish prayer, and it's not even going to happen anyway. All we can really pray is for his will to be done. So if you can't figure out how to pray according to what Yahuwah wants, ask him to give you the words, and then what comes to you according to the word of his word. If it's in alignment with his word and it's come from him, you can speak his word and he's going to answer his word. If he gives you that word, if he gives you a word in your ear, listen and turn. And one of the prayers that you can pray is, turn me so I will be turned. That's in the word. I can tell you that is his word, and you can pray it. Turn me so I will be turned. and then watch him do it. If your heart is right with him, if you have the least amount of turning to him, the smallest amount, he will meet you and he will pull you along to where he wants you. So please be tender to his prompting in you. Turn, be willing to turn. He will meet you halfway and throw his arms around you. And then you answer that call. Many are called, few are chosen. So answer the call. Make your heart tender to him.
Amen.
I mean, thank you all.
Thank you, Darla. Beautiful. Thank you for leading us.
Thank you for being with us. And I'm just here to fellow serve with y'all, by the way.
This has been a beautiful study today, Darla. Thank you.
It has. I love you all. Thank you. It's been a
I
beautiful
love all of you.
Shabbat.
Shalom, y'all. Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom, sisters.